Chapter 2240. The ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage. As soon as this thought appeared in the elder's mind, his eyes widened in shock. His body stiffened as well. He was completely dumbfounded by what he had just witnessed. The purple-clad young man, Duan Lingtian, was actually a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage. The person who killed his son was a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage. If he had known Duan Lingtian was a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage, he would not have dared to provoke Duan Lingtian. What a joke. A powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage was on par with the Palace Master of Wandering Saint Palace. Although Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only one stage higher than his, it would be a piece of cake for Duan Lingtian to kill him. Sir, the elder from the Wandering Saint Palace looked at Duan Lingtian and mustered up his courage to speak. You're right. Swoosh. Duan Lingtian waved his hand, and the sound of a sword whistling in the air rang in the air. A sword ray shot out and pierced the elder's glabella, heading straight for his soul. In just a blink of an eye, the elder from Wandering Saint Palace did not even have time to use the soul-detaching technique that was unique to powerhouses at or above the eighth form of the Saint Celestial Stage before his soul was destroyed by Duan Lingtian. From the beginning until now, Duan Lingtian did not even bother to talk to him. Bang! A loud explosion rang in the air as soon as the space between the elder's eyebrows was penetrated by Duan Lingtian's palm. It was the sound of Duan Lingtian's palm striking the elder. The sound of wind and thunder rang in the air as he struck out with his palm. It was as though his palm contained the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. A series of deafening explosions rang in the air as waves of Sun Saint origin shot out from Duan Lingtian's palm. When the Sun Saint origin surged out, it transformed into waves and waves that engulfed the elders from the Wandering Saint Palace that he had killed. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian was the only one who could clearly see what was going on, not to mention in the eyes of Kerr and her daughter. Even Ganru Yin couldn't see how Duan Lingtian did it. She only heard the sound of a sword whistling, and in the next moment, the person who wanted to kill Duan Lingtian disappeared without a trace. Only one spatial ring remained. It fell from the sky and was casually pulled over by Duan Lingtian and put away. Seeing this, Ganru Yin was not so naive as to think that the person had left. After all, that person had even left behind his storage ring. So it was impossible for him to have left. There was only one possibility. He had already been killed. Father, where's that bad guy? Where is he? Duan Siling did not know what the spatial ring meant. She looked around in Duan Lingtian's arms in an attempt to find the elder from the Wandering Saint Palace. Siling, that bad guy has been chased away by your father. Duan Siling did not know what the spatial ring meant, but Ku-er knew very well. When she heard her daughter's naive words, she replied immediately. Chased away? Duan Siling was stunned for a moment before she regained her senses. She cried out, Wow, father, you're so strong. You actually chased away that bad guy. Wah. Duan Siling kissed Duan Lingtian's cheek. She was more excited than anyone else. Let's go. Let's continue on our journey. Duan Lingtian patted Duan Siling's head and smiled at her affectionately before he said to Kerr and Ganru Yin, Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, he led the three women to his hometown. His hometown was one of the mortal continents in the Saint Province realm. It was called Cloud Continent. Since the Sun Saint origin in his body was comparable to the Saint origin of a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial Stage, Duan Lingtian was able to bring the three women to Cloud Continent in just a short time. The heaven and earth spirit energy on Cloud Continent was much weaker compared to the Debussy subterranean. Duan Lingtian and Kerr were already prepared for this. Ganru Yin and Duan Siling found it difficult to adapt to the environment since the heaven and earth spirit energy on Cloud Continent was too thin. Due to this, the environment on Cloud Continent was much worse than the Debussy subterranean. Father, I don't like it here. Duan Siling pouted and said to Duan Lingtian, Siling, be good. We'll leave this place when we find grandfather and grandmother, okay? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile on his face. Okay. Duan Si-ling nodded obediently. After a while, she said, "Father, let's find grandfather and grandmother as soon as possible. This place isn't good. Let's bring them to the place where we came from. They'll be happy there." "Okay, okay. I'll listen to Si-ling." Duan Lingtian nodded repeatedly. They continued to travel south. Soon after, Duan Lingtian brought the three women to the 10 great dynasties on Cloud Continent. After entering the 10 great dynasties, Duan Lingtian brought the three women through the clouds and descended from the sky. Along the way, they could see dried corpses that had been sucked dry by the devil clansmen. Most of the prosperous cities in his memory were now in ruins, as if they had just encountered a huge disaster. Devil clansmen, devil clansmen. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes were bloodshot as well. His hatred for the devil clans burned fiercely in his heart, as though it could burn everything in its path. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. When Duan Lingtian's hatred for the devil clansmen reached its peak, he brought the three women with him as he traveled through the 10 great dynasties at his fastest speed. He killed all the devil clansmen along the way. With Duan Lingtian's speed, it only took him about 10 days to sweep through the 10 great dynasties. He killed almost all the devil clansmen in the 10 great dynasties. During this time, Duan Lingtian tried to help Kerr improve her innate spiritual root. However, he discovered that her innate spiritual root was not weak at all. He discovered that Kerr's dark violet innate spiritual root was not the limit of her innate spiritual root. There was still room for improvement in Kerr's innate spiritual root. Although there was hope for Kerr's innate spiritual root to be upgraded to the next grade, the process of upgrading it was like a bottomless pit. This was because Duan Lingtian had devoured half of the devil clansmen's innate spiritual roots in the 10 great dynasties. However, it was still like pouring a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root was getting darker and darker. It was one step closer to becoming a dark violet innate spiritual root. Apart from the devil clansmen in the 10 great dynasties who have some tricks up their sleeves, the rest of the devil clansmen must have been killed by me. It's time for me to return and see if father, mother, and little Fei are still in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian brought the three women back to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. The Crimson Sky Kingdom was one of the many kingdoms in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom under the Darkstone Empire in the Darkhan Dynasty. It was also Duan Lingtian's hometown. This was where Duan Lingtian had risen to power. Previously, when Duan Lingtian was slaughtering the devil clansmen in the 10 great dynasties, he had come to the Crimson Sky Kingdom as well. However, he did not have time to do anything else since he was focused on hunting and searching for the devil clansmen. Now that he had killed almost all the devil clansmen in the 10 great dynasties, he had returned to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Due to the Crimson Sky Kingdom's remote location, it did not suffer much damage. The devil clansmen who came to the Crimson Sky Kingdom were considered weak by Duan Lingtian. They were the lowest level devil clansmen in the land of exile. They came to the Crimson Sky Kingdom to enjoy themselves. They wanted to enjoy the vanity and sense of existence that humans gave them. After all, when they were in the land of exile, they were just like ants, cannon fodder. They did not have much sense of existence, let alone enjoy the vanity. However, now that they were in a remote location in the Saint Province realm, they were able to rule over the land. Due to the fact that the humans here were too weak, even if the devil clansmen devoured their vital essence and blood, they would not be able to improve much. For this reason, the devil clansmen did not devour the vital essence and blood of the humans. Instead, they allowed the humans to live well, so they could show off their strength. The devil clansmen enjoyed themselves in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Even the emperor and the commoners did not dare to provoke them. Not only did they not dare to provoke the devil clansmen, but they even served them respectfully. It was only when Duan Lingtian passed by 2 days ago and killed the devil clansmen that the Crimson Sky Kingdom regained its peace. Father, mother, little Fei and the others, they didn't come back? After some investigation, Duan Lingtian discovered that his father, mother, and father were not here. His father, mother, wife, Li Fei, and son, Duan Yintian, did not come back. Apart from here, where else could they go? Duan Lingtian was puzzled by this. In the end, he brought the three women out of the Crimson Sky Kingdom and wandered aimlessly in the 10 great dynasties. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian did not disturb his old friends in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Currently, he had completely wiped out the devil clansmen in the 10 great dynasties. For this reason, he was not worried about the safety of his old friends. At the same time, he did not want to disturb their lives. Where are they? After searching through the entire territory of the 10 great dynasties, Duan Lingtian still didn't notice the tracks of his parents, wife, and son, and he couldn't help but feel slightly anxious. He could not figure it out. After his father and mother left the Azure Cloud Mansion, where else could they go apart from here? Just as Duan Lingtian was burning with anxiety because he could not find his parents and his wife, a voice rang in the air. In the east of the Debussy subterranean, Duan Rufeng, take the 10,000 mountain seal and run. Chapter 22:41. At this moment, two figures could be seen flying side by side in the sky above the barren mountain range. They were two young men. One of them was standing on the shoulder of a gigantic stone golem, allowing the stone golem to carry him. He was dressed in a long green robe, and the hairband on his head had been broken. His hair was disheveled, and he cut a sorry figure. She glanced at his messy hair and looked at his face, only to find that he was not as calm as before. This young man's forehead was slightly similar to Duan Lingtian's. The stone golem under his feet was filled with demonic qi, but its body was covered with cracks. It was obvious that it had suffered serious injuries, as if it could crack open at any time. If there were devils here, they would be able to tell the stone golem was a saint devil puppet. The other person was dressed in a black robe. His hair was also disheveled, and his aura was weak. It was obvious he had suffered serious injuries. At this moment, the black-robed young man raised his hand and tossed a seal to the green-robed young man standing on the stone golem's shoulder. On top of this seal, there were numerous exquisite hills. At first glance, there seemed to be an endless number of hills. If there was someone here who knew what it was, they would be able to tell it was a seal. This was the 10,000 Mountain Seal, one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking in the Tao Martial Saintland. From the beginning until the end, both of them were traveling at an extremely fast speed. They did not dare to hesitate at all. Dugu, I'm afraid I can't escape even if I want to, Duan Rufeng said with a wry smile on his face when he heard the sound of wind whistling behind him. That fellow is the palace master of the Great Spirit Palace in the Human Devil Clan. His cultivation base has long broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. With our current strength, it's impossible for us to fight him. However, we were too careless. We should have changed our location earlier. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been targeted by him. When Duan Rufeng reached the end of his sentence, he felt a little bitter. Since the Ox Devil clan from the Land of Exile had invaded the lower province of the Tao Martial Saintland, Duan Rufeng had begun to make preparations. In the face of the demon race, he and Dugu, an old rival of the past, chose to join forces against the common enemy. Following the invasion of the demon army into the Debussy subterranean, they joined forces to slaughter a group of demons. Furthermore, they relied on the inheritances they had obtained to wantonly devour the essence and blood of the demons to strengthen their own strength. After all, at this time, only powerful strength could guarantee one's survival. Only then could one better protect and let the people around them survive. During this process, Duan Rufeng gave up on the Mountain Shade Black Market and brought the group of elites from the Mountain Shade Black Market to Duan Rufeng's Azure Cloud Mansion. After that, one of the strongest clans in the Devil Clans, the Human Devil Clan, set their sights on the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate. At first, only the vanguard of the Human Devil Clan had attacked, but he and Dugu had killed more than half of them. Later on, when the Human Devil Clan's army arrived, they felt the situation was hopeless, so they brought the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion and the Mountain Shade Black Market away from the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate. Return to the mortal continent, Cloud Continent? Before leaving the Azure Cloud Mansion's estate, Duan Rufeng had such a thought in his mind. However, as soon as this thought popped up in his mind, he dismissed it. Although the mortal continent, Cloud Continent, was safe, The devil clans that occupied it did not have many powerhouses. Devouring the essence and blood of the demons would not increase his and Dugu's strength by much. At this time, they urgently needed to obtain a powerful strength. The second human-devil era had already arrived. They had to become stronger as soon as possible so they could settle down. For this reason, after discussing with Dugu, they brought the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion and the Mountain Shade Black Market to the east of the Debussy Subterranean and found a secluded place to recuperate. On the other hand, he and Dugu often came out to hunt devils to strengthen their own cultivation. However, today was the day of their nightmare. They were targeted by the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from the Human Devil Clan. Speaking of the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from the Human Devil Clan, more than half of the Human Devil Clan's vanguard had been killed by them. This was because among the Human Devil Clan's vanguard that they had killed was the last disciple of the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace in the Human Devil Clan. He was a young genius who had outstanding innate talent but had yet to mature. From then on, they had formed an irreconcilable enmity with the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace. It's useless to say anything now. Dugu shook his head. With a solemn expression, he said to Duan Rufeng, although we've always been rivals, I feel that we're fated to meet. Both of us have inherited the Devil Clan's legacies and become leaders of top forces in the Debussy Subterranean. Although we're rivals, we appreciate each other's talents. I don't have any regrets in my life now that I've met you. After you escape with the blood escape, I hope you'll take good care of the people from the Mountain Shade Black Market and avenge me. When Dugu reached the end of his sentence, a rare smile appeared on his stiff and cold face. It was a smile that was uglier than crying. Blood escape? Upon hearing Dugu's words, Duan Rufeng could not help but smile bitterly. The Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace's divine consciousness has already locked onto both of us. With his strength, even if we use the blood escape, we won't be able to escape from under his nose. I'm afraid we'll have to die together today. Duan Rufeng sighed softly. As Duan Rufeng sighed, he thought about his wife, his son, his grandson, and his granddaughter whom he had yet to meet. His eyes were filled with reluctance. He did not want to die. He really did not want to die. However, did he still have a chance to live? He could not see any hope at all. If I say you'll live, you'll live. I, Dugu, have never lied before. Dugu shook his head and said in a resolute tone, Remember my words. Avenge me. Find a good master for the 10,000 Mountains seal. When he spoke again, Dugu's tone suddenly changed. It became increasingly cold, giving people the feeling that winter had arrived, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. What are you trying to do? Duan Rufeng felt a chill in his heart when he heard the change in Dugu's tone. His expression changed drastically. Wah! Duan Rufeng replied to Duan Rufeng by spitting out a mouthful of blood. When the blood appeared in the air, it was as beautiful as a blood-red rose. It added a touch of color to the pale white sky. After spitting out the blood, it did not disperse. Under Dugu's control, the blood spun in the air as though it was carving a complicated mark. It was imprinted in the air, causing the air to tremble. A strong wind blew. Under Dugu's control, the blood seemed to have been given life. It was as though it was a stroke of genius that adorned the air. From the beginning until the end, although no traces of the blood could be seen, the ancient and oppressive aura in the air made Duan Rufeng's hair stand on end. When Duan Rufeng subconsciously looked at Dugu, he realized that Dugu was not the only one. Dugu's originally youthful face also aged a lot in an instant, layers of wrinkles overlapping each other. In the end, Dugu seemed to have turned into an old man with one foot in the coffin. At this moment, his black hair had also turned silvery white. His robust body rapidly shrunk at this moment, becoming incomparably thin, as if only skin and bones were left. In addition, he also discovered that, in the blink of an eye, Dugu had turned into a withered old man. Not only was his entire body trembling violently, but his forehead was also covered in cold sweat. His teeth were tightly clenched together. Blood continuously flowed out from his mouth. Broken teeth flowed out along with blood. It can be seen that He gritted his teeth so hard that they shattered. Right now, Dugu was clearly enduring some kind of pain, a pain that was not something a normal person could endure. This is, looking at the blood that was constantly flowing in the void, looking at the changes that happened to Dugu's body in an instant, and feeling the vicissitudes of life and the pressure from the void that was becoming stronger and stronger. Duan Ruffeng finally remembered where he had come across a record of such a scene. In the orthodox inheritance of the demon race that he had obtained, there was a record of such a technique. Age soul devouring blood formation. After thinking about it, Duan Ruffeng could not help but exclaim in shock. His eyes narrowed, and a look of horror appeared on his face. Dugu, you. He did not expect that Dugu would actually know this forbidden formation of the demon race. The age soul devouring blood formation was an extremely ancient and cruel teleportation formation. The reason why it was said to be cruel was because to inscribe this formation, not only did one have to burn one's own life force, but one also had to endure the pain of having one's soul devoured. It was said that the pain of having one's soul devoured was equivalent to having thousands of ants gnawing on one's soul at the same time. The entire process was extremely painful. Even among the demon race, not many people could endure this kind of pain. If one did not successfully endure the pain of having one's soul devoured, the age soul devouring blood formation would not be able to be formed. In the history of the exiled land, the number of demons who had successfully inscribed the age soul devouring blood formation could be counted on one's fingers. All of them were people with great perseverance. Among the demon race, there were even fewer who dared to attempt to inscribe the age soul devouring blood formation. Seeing Dugu's old face contorted together, his body twitching nonstop, and blood flowing out of his mouth, Duan Rufeng's heart trembled violently. In order to let him live, this former opponent had not hesitated to burn his own life force and endure the pain of having his soul devoured to inscribe the age soul devouring blood formation for him. Dugu. Unknowingly, Duan Rufeng's eyes had turned completely red. However, there was nothing he could do. He could not do anything. He could only worry helplessly. Right now, if he tried to stop Dugu, Dugu would immediately be killed by him. Chapter 2242. The process of setting up the age soul devouring blood formation did not take long. It only took a few breaths. However, whether it was Duan Rufeng or Dugu, these few breaths felt like an eternity to them. Duan Rufeng felt like it was an eternity because Dugu had gone to such lengths for him. Dugu felt like it was an eternity because of the pain of his soul being devoured. It felt as though millions of ants were gnawing on his soul. There were a few times when he was on the verge of breaking down. In the end, he relied on his strong willpower to persevere. During this process, he felt like he was in a living hell. Every day felt like a year to him. After the torment ended, Dugu's life force had completely withered. He successfully set up the age soul devouring blood formation. Open! Dugu cried out weakly. A blood-red mark appeared in the air where he had used his blood to inscribe the age soul devouring blood formation. It shone with a dazzling blood-red light. Above the blood-red mark, a door that seemed to be completely made of blood appeared out of thin air and opened. It was dark beyond the door. No one knew where it led to. Duan Rufeng, you're my only friend, Dugu said as he looked at Duan Rufeng. A smile that was uglier than a crying face appeared on his old face. Although he was at the peak of the Debussy subterranean, he did not have any friends. Before the devil clans invaded the Dao Martial Saintland, he did not expect he would acknowledge his old rival, Duan Rufeng, as a friend. Almost as soon as Dugu finished speaking, the aura on his body was completely annihilated. It was as if it had disappeared without a trace in an instant, as if it had never existed. Not only did he have to burn his life force to set up the age soul devouring blood formation, but he had to burn his soul as well. After setting up the age soul devouring blood formation, Dugu was already at the end of his rope. Now that he had used the last of his strength to say those words, he could not hold on any longer and died. However, there was still a smile on Dugu's face as he died. He died peacefully as though he had no regrets. Dugu, Seeing that Duan Rufeng had sacrificed his own life to pave a path of escape for him, Duan Rufeng's eyes, which were already red, were filled with tears. 2 streams of clear tears fell from his eyes. Men don't cry easily, but that's only because they haven't been deeply hurt. Before the Devil clans invaded the Dao Martial Saintland, it did not cross Dugu's mind that he would become friends with Dugu. Yet now, for the sake of paving a way for him to escape, his friend did not hesitate to burn his life and soul, and was willing to endure the pain of having his soul devoured. Dugu didn't have to bear this pain. However, in order to save him, Dugu was willing to accept it. Whoosh! He could hear the sound of something breaking through the air behind him, getting closer and closer, as if it would catch up in a moment. When Duan Rufeng saw the transporting gate opened by the Age Soul devouring blood formation, he no longer hesitated. He controlled the Saint Devil puppet under his feet and entered the transporting gate. Initially, Duan Rufeng wanted to take Dugu's spatial ring to prevent the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from benefiting from it. However, time did not allow him to do so. As soon as Duan Rufeng entered the transporting gate began to fade away. Whoosh! When the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from the Human Devil clan arrived, the transporting gate opened by the Age Soul devouring blood formation disappeared as well. The Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from the Human Devil clan was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. He was dressed in a long golden robe, and his long hair was tied up casually. His expression was firm, and he exuded an aura of authority. Age Soul devouring blood formation? When the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace from the Human Devil clan arrived, he saw the transporting gate that had just disappeared. When he saw the old and skinny corpse falling from the sky, it was not difficult for him to see that the old and skinny corpse had cast the Devil clan's forbidden formation, the Age Soul devouring blood formation, to pave a way for the other person to escape. At this moment, he discovered that the other person had escaped from his divine consciousness. The transporting gate created by the Age Soul devouring blood formation was different from the blood escape formation. The blood escape formation could not escape the divine consciousness of a powerhouse, but the blood escape formation could easily escape the divine consciousness of a powerhouse. He knew that since the other person had escaped through the Age Soul devouring blood formation, it was impossible for him to catch up to the other person. After all, he did not know where the other person had been teleported to. The Debussy subterranean was not big, but it was not small either. If the other person wanted to hide, it would be difficult for him to find the other person. I didn't expect a mere devil cultivator would be able to successfully inscribe and set up the Age Soul devouring blood formation. The Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace sighed as he descended from the sky. After he removed the spatial ring from Dugu's hand, he descended from the sky with Dugu's corpse. A hint of respect could be seen in his eyes as he looked at Dugu. Even among the devils from the land of exile, very few of them dared to inscribe and set up the Age Soul devouring blood formation. There were even fewer devils who could successfully inscribe and set up the Age Soul devouring blood formation. Now that he saw Dugu, a mere devil cultivator, had successfully inscribed and set up the Age Soul devouring blood formation, he could not help but feel respect for Dugu. It was true that he and Dugu were enemies. Even if Dugu came back to life, he would still kill him. However, this did not affect his respect for Dugu in this aspect. There's also that lucky fellow. A rare hint of envy appeared in the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace's eyes when he thought about the person who had successfully escaped from his divine consciousness through the Age Soul devouring blood formation. Although he had lived for half of his life, he had made many friends. However, he knew very well that Dugu Ling Tian was not an exception. None of his friends would be willing to set up the Age Soul devouring blood formation for him, even if they knew they were going to die. That Duan Rufeng was lucky enough to escape. However, I promise you that one day, I'll find him and kill him to avenge you. After the envy in the eyes of the Great Spirit Palace's Palace Master disappeared, a fierce light flashed in his eyes as he muttered to himself. His words were directed at the last disciple. He doted on the most who had been killed by Duan Ling Tian and Dugu. On the other side, after passing through the portal opened by the Age Soul devouring blood formation, Duan Ruffing arrived at a place that was completely foreign to him. However, he did not have the time to care about his surroundings at this moment. He stood there motionlessly. The Saint Devil puppet had also disappeared at some point in time. It was as if it had left. After a long while, he muttered to himself, "Dugu, don't worry. I'll find a good owner for your Super Saint weapon, the 10,000 Mountain Seal. Apart from that, I'll also avenge you. I'll personally ring the Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace's head to avenge you." Duan Rufing's eyes shone with a piercing light as he muttered to himself. It was as though he could see through everything. On the Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian did not know his father had almost been killed. After confirming his family and friends were not in the 10 Great Dynasties' territories, he left the 10 Great Dynasties and came to the foreign realm. The Skywolf Fort was his first stop when he left the 10 Great Dynasties and arrived at the foreign realm. However, the Skywolf Fort now had a new owner. The current owner of the Skywolf Fort was a group of devils who were quite strong. Naturally, he was referring to the devils in the 10 Great Dynasties when he said they were strong. To Duan Lingtian, the devils with such a cultivation base were like ants. They could not even withstand a single blow. For this reason, Duan Lingtian easily annihilated the group of devils who had occupied the Skywolf Fort. What a pity! The people who used to live in the Skywolf Fort are all gone. I wonder if they've been killed or if they've escaped. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian did not see any of the people he was not familiar with in the Skywolf Fort. Since I'm here, I might as well sweep through the Cloud Continent. Perhaps father, mother, little Fayer, and the others are hiding somewhere on the Cloud Continent. They didn't return to the 10 Great Dynasties because they were worried they'd be an obvious target. Duan Lingtian could not help but think to himself as his eyes gleamed. After making up his mind, Duan Lingtian did not continue to stay in the Skywolf Fort. After he left the Skywolf Fort with the 3 women, he began to sweep through the devils. Every single devil that he found or encountered was killed by him. The Cloud Continent was only a mortal continent. The cultivation environment there was terrible. There were no powerhouses among the devils who were willing to stay in the mortal continent. With Duan Lingtian's current strength, he easily crushed all the devils along the way. During this process, Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root continued to improve. Its color was getting darker and darker. It was advancing to a dark violet innate spiritual root at an extremely fast speed. At this rate, it won't be long before my innate spiritual root successfully transforms to a dark violet innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. At the same time, he was slightly excited. After my innate spiritual root transforms to a dark violet innate spiritual root, I'll continue to improve mine and Kerr's innate spiritual roots. I really want to see what grade my innate spiritual root is after it transforms to a dark violet innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian was filled with anticipation when he thought of this. He continued to lead the 3 women to sweep through the Devil Continent. Time continued to pass by quietly. After more than a month, Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root finally took the last step and successfully transformed to a dark violet innate spiritual root. How fast? Chapter 22:43. A human's desire was endless. These words were not false at all. Just like a beggar, perhaps his biggest wish was to be able to eat until he was full. However, when he was finally able to eat until he was full, he would definitely yearn for a better life. Currently, Duan Lingtian was the same. In the past, he had always dreamed of using the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to transform his innate spiritual root into a violet innate spiritual root. However, when his innate spiritual root had truly transformed into a violet innate spiritual root, he was eager to further transform his innate spiritual root into a dark violet innate spiritual root, the highest grade of violet innate spiritual root. Initially, he thought this was the limit of the grade of his innate spiritual root. However, after some experimentation, he realized it was not a dark violet innate spiritual root. Even a dark violet innate spiritual root was not the limit of an innate spiritual root. After the violet innate spiritual root, there was most likely a higher grade innate spiritual root. This was because after his innate spiritual root had transformed into a dark violet innate spiritual root, he could continue to use the elementary devouring tactic to improve it. Although the improvement would not be huge, it would be gradual. It gave him hope. I really want to see what grade of innate spiritual root is after the dark violet innate spiritual root. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian continued to sweep through Cloud Continent with the three women. After some time, apart from those who could hide under Duan Lingtian's nose, almost all the devil clans on Cloud Continent had been wiped out by Duan Lingtian. During this process, Duan Lingtian continued to use the elementary devouring tactic to improve his innate spiritual root. However, there seemed to be a huge gap between a dark violet innate spiritual root and a higher grade innate spiritual root. Although Duan Lingtian had devoured almost all the innate spiritual roots in the devil clans on Cloud Continent, he still could not reach the threshold of the next grade of innate spiritual root. Compared to the Debussy subterranean, a mortal continent like the Cloud Continent is still too small. Apart from that, most of the devils in the mortal continent are weaklings from the land of exile. Although there are many of them, their innate talents are mediocre. Their innate spiritual roots are of low quality. However, even then, Duan Lingtian could feel the difference between his current innate spiritual root and the next grade of innate spiritual root. That was definitely a gap like a chasm. Father, mother, little Fair, and the others seemed to have indeed not returned to Cloud Continent. While sweeping through the entire Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian did not forget to search for his group of family and friends. However, his efforts were in vain. In the end, Duan Lingtian had no choice but to accept the fact that his friends and family hadn't returned to Cloud Continent. At the same time, a hint of worry could be seen in his eyes. If they did not return to Cloud Continent, where could they have gone? Moreover, why did they not return to Cloud Continent? Was there a reason, or had something happened to them? If I knew this would happen, I would have prepared a soul pearl for father, mother, little Fair, and the others. That way, I would have known if they were safe or not. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt a wave of regret again. He regretted not preparing soul pearls for his loved ones. Otherwise, he would not have been in such a passive situation. Brother Tian, you don't have to worry too much. Kerr comforted Duan Lingtian when she saw Duan Lingtian's worry. Since Uncle Feng and Aunt Ro were able to escape under the watchful eyes of the human devil army, it means they're capable of protecting themselves. Since they didn't return to Cloud Continent, they must be hiding somewhere else. For example, the Debussy subterranean or the other two mortal continents. The reason they didn't return to Cloud Continent is that they're worried they'd implicate their old friends on Cloud Continent. After all, they've killed many of the human devil army's vanguards. Therefore, the human devil army must hate them to the core. Many human devil powerhouses might be paying attention to Cloud Continent. Cloud Continent is Uncle Feng's hometown, and this shouldn't be a secret in the Debussy subterranean. Kerr said. One had to admit that Kerr's words made sense. At the very least, it moved Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's expression softened. Thank you, Kerr. Duan Lingtian looked at Kerr gently and said softly. At this moment, he felt like he was the happiest man in the world. With a wife like this, what more could he ask for in this lifetime? Brother Tian, there's no need for you to thank me. When Ku'er looked at Duan Lingtian, her beautiful eyes were as gentle as water. It was as if at this moment, Duan Lingtian was the only person left in her world. Gan Ruyin stood at the side with a complicated expression on her face when she saw this. As for Duan Siling, she had fallen asleep in Duan Lingtian's arms. Let's go to the other two mortal continents to have a look. After bidding farewell to Ku'er and Gan Ruyin, Duan Lingtian carried his daughter and brought the two of them away from Cloud Continent at an extremely fast speed. There were a total of 3 mortal continents around the Debussy subterranean, including Cloud Continent. Soon after, Duan Lingtian arrived at one of the mortal continents. After arriving at the mortal continent, Duan Lingtian began to search for his family and friends as he wiped out the devils he encountered along the way. During this time, his innate spiritual root continued to improve. 2 months passed in just a blink of an eye. At the same time, he had wiped out almost all the devils on the mortal continent. This is a bottomless pit. At this moment, Duan Lingtian discovered that his innate spiritual root was still very dark. His innate spiritual root was still a dark violet innate spiritual root. Although its color was getting darker, it still did not reach the threshold of the next grade of innate spiritual root. If I didn't devour the innate spiritual roots of the devils on the mortal continent and used their innate spiritual roots to improve Sealing and Ganru Yan's innate spiritual roots, their innate spiritual roots might have already become dark purple. Duan Lingtian thought to himself, I'll help them improve their innate spiritual roots when I reach the last mortal continent. He knew it would be difficult for his innate spiritual root to improve to the next grade even if he continued to devour the innate spiritual roots of the devils on the mortal continent. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian dismissed the idea of devouring the innate spiritual roots of the devils on the mortal continent. He planned to improve the innate spiritual roots of his daughter, Duan Sealing, and Ker's twin sister, Ganru Yan. It's a pity father, mother, and little Fei aren't here. Duan Lingtian was, naturally, disappointed that he did not manage to find his family and friends on the mortal continent. Fortunately, Duan Lingtian was mentally prepared for this. Although he was disappointed, he was still able to accept this reality. Swoosh! Duan Lingtian decided to do what he wanted to do. With just a flash, he brought his 3 daughters and left the mortal continent at a ridiculously fast speed. When they arrived at the last mortal continent, Duan Lingtian continued to search for his family and friends as he wiped out the devil clans. This, just as Duan Lingtian was about to help his daughter improve her innate spiritual root, he discovered something was amiss. His daughter's innate spiritual root was not of any of the 7 colors of the rainbow. His daughter's innate spiritual root was black. There's no improvement at all. Apart from that, when Duan Lingtian merged the devil's innate spiritual root with his daughter's innate spiritual root, he discovered there was no improvement at all. It was as though a drop of water had fallen into a vast ocean. It did not cause even the slightest ripple. Although he possessed a dark violet innate spiritual root, after absorbing the devil clan's innate spiritual root, there was still a slight improvement in his innate spiritual root. It was not to the extent that he would not be able to cause a commotion. Could it be that Sealing's innate spiritual root is the limit of an innate spiritual root? At this moment, a thought suddenly appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. It was difficult for him to suppress this thought. Black innate spiritual root? As it turned out, the limit of an innate spiritual root was a black innate spiritual root? If it's a black innate spiritual root, it can be explained. Currently, if the dark violet innate spiritual root continues to transform, its color will only become black in the end. Duan Sealing's innate spiritual root, the black innate spiritual root, seemed to have opened a new world for Duan Lingtian. As it turned out, a violet innate spiritual root was not the limit of an innate spiritual root. The limit of an innate spiritual root was a black innate spiritual root. Kerr. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but ask Kerr through voice transmission, is Sealing's cultivation speed very fast? And it's ridiculously fast. Ridiculously fast? Yes. Although Kerr did not know why Duan Lingtian would suddenly ask this, she still nodded and replied through voice transmission, Sealing has displayed her outstanding innate talent since she was very young. However, I don't want her to live a tiring life at such a young age, so I don't allow her to cultivate. I didn't even tell you about Sealing's innate talent. I'm afraid you'll let her cultivate because you don't want to waste her innate talent. Kerr's thoughts were simple. She just wanted her daughter to live happily every day and have a beautiful childhood. As for her daughter's innate talent and the grade of her innate spiritual root, she did not care about it and did not want to care about it. Chapter 22:44. You're doing the right thing. Duan Lingtian agreed with Kerr's decision. Regardless of how heaven-defying his daughter's innate talent was, he did not want her to cultivate so early and lose her childhood. A person only had one childhood in their life. Once it was lost, it would never come back. However, even then, Duan Lingtian was still shocked by his daughter's innate talent. Waves of shock surged in his heart as well. I really didn't expect that my daughter would have the innate spiritual root after the violet innate spiritual root that I've always been curious about. Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh when he thought of this. Previously, when his innate spiritual root had transformed into a dark violet innate spiritual root, He had hoped his innate spiritual root would transform into the next grade of innate spiritual root. During this time, he was very curious about the next grade of innate spiritual root. However, he finally found out. After the dark violet innate spiritual root, the next grade of innate spiritual root was the black innate spiritual root. It was also the limit of the innate spiritual root. Before this, Duan Lingtian did not expect his daughter to possess the innate spiritual root. He did not expect his daughter to possess the innate spiritual root that he had always dreamed of. After he discovered his daughter's black innate spiritual root, it seemed as though he had opened a door to a whole new world. He finally knew what the limit of the innate spiritual root was. Black innate spiritual root. Black innate spiritual root. I have a clear goal now. After learning that the black innate spiritual root was the limit of the innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian finally had a clear goal. At the very least, he no longer had to be so clueless about his goal. Xiling's innate spiritual root is the limit of the black innate spiritual root. It's meaningless to devour the Devil Clan's innate spiritual root to improve her innate spiritual root. I'll help Ganru Yin improve her innate spiritual root first. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian decided to help Ganru Yin improve her innate spiritual root. Of course, before that, he had to inform Ganru Yin. After all, Ganru Yin was different from his daughter, Duan Xiling. His daughter did not have a cultivation base, and her divine consciousness had yet to be born. Even if he sent his divine consciousness into her soul, she would not feel anything. However, Ganru Yin was completely different. Her cultivation base was at the Saint Celestial stage after all. If he rashly used his divine consciousness to invade her body, she would definitely resist. I plan to help you improve your innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian looked at Ganru Yin and spoke bluntly without beating around the bush. Improve my innate spiritual root? Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ganru Yin couldn't help but be stunned. She couldn't react for a moment. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by improving the innate spiritual root? What's there to improve my innate spiritual root? I've heard that you currently have an indigo innate spiritual root. I'm confident I'll be able to improve your innate spiritual root to a violet innate spiritual root within a month. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by Ganru Yan's reaction, because any normal person would definitely have such a reaction when faced with such a situation. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ganru Yin was stunned again. He would be able to improve her innate spiritual root to a violet innate spiritual root within a month? Duan Lingtian's words echoed in Ganru Yan's ears. She was so shocked that Ganru Yan's emotions were thrown into disarray. She could not help but question his words. Why, you're telling the truth? You can really improve my innate spiritual root? After a while, Ganru Yin took a deep breath and regained her senses. She looked at Duan Lingtian skeptically as she asked. Although she felt it was impossible to improve her innate spiritual root, she did not think it was possible. However, when she saw Duan Lingtian looking at her solemnly and did not seem to be joking, she could not help but ask skeptically, "What's wrong?" "Humph. If you're not interested, then forget it." Duan Lingtian scoffed. He was, naturally, displeased by Ganru Yan's skepticism. If it was not for the fact that Ganru Yin treated Kerr and her mother well, and Kerr also acknowledged her as an elder sister, he would not have helped Ganru Yin improve her innate spiritual root. Now that Ganru Yin was doubting him, naturally, he could not be bothered to help her improve her innate spiritual root. When Ganru Yin saw Duan Lingtian's attitude toward her, she felt slightly embarrassed and angry. His attitude was worlds apart from Duan Lingtian's attitude toward her sister. "Elder sister, Brother Tian won't lie to you." At this moment, Kerr spoke up to remind Ganru Yin. Ganru Yin, naturally, did not doubt her sister's words. Due to this reason, she was certain Duan Lingtian would be able to help her improve her innate spiritual root. For this reason, her heart was in turmoil. He can really help me improve my innate spiritual root? Is he still human? Ganru Yan's heart was in turmoil, and she could not control herself. Who said I'm not interested? After regaining her senses, Ganru Yin looked at Duan Lingtian and said anxiously, "You said you'll help me improve my innate spiritual root." Kerr heard it as well. "You can't go back on your word." At this moment, Ganru Yin was only worried Duan Lingtian would really go back on his word. After all, if Duan Lingtian went back on his word, she would lose the opportunity to improve her innate spiritual root. Who would not want a violet innate spiritual root? Brother Tian, please help my sister improve her innate spiritual root, Kerr said to Duan Lingtian. Since Kerr had personally spoken, Duan Lingtian, who originally wanted to make things difficult for Ganru Yin, dismissed the idea. Since you've spoken, Kerr, I won't hold it against her. Thank you, Brother Tian. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, a sweet smile appeared on Kerr's face. Upon seeing this, Ganru Yin looked at Kerr gratefully. At the same time, a hint of envy and disappointment could be seen in the depths of her eyes. Her younger sister looked exactly like her. However, in front of Duan Lingtian, the difference in treatment between her and her sister was like heaven and earth. Although she didn't feel that it was unfair, she still felt a little conflicted and couldn't help but envy her younger sister. Over the next few days, as Duan Lingtian put the matter of improving one's innate spiritual root into practice, Ganru Yin was shocked. She could not believe there was actually someone who could improve one's innate spiritual root. Although she was convinced by her sister's words, she could not help but feel shocked when she witnessed Duan Lingtian improving her innate spiritual root. There's actually such a technique in this world? Ganru Yin was in a daze for a long time. When Ganru Yin finally regained her senses, she could not help but ask Duan Lingtian, "You can also improve your innate spiritual root?" "Yes." In the face of Ganru Yin's question, Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently. Ganru Yin felt bitter and disappointed when she saw this. She also dispelled the thought of continuing to ask questions to get to the bottom of this matter. Since Ganru Yin originally possessed an indigo innate spiritual root, it was not difficult for him to improve it to a violet innate spiritual root. In less than a month's time, Duan Lingtian had achieved his initial goal. He had to help Ganru Yin improve her innate spiritual root to a violet innate spiritual root within a month. How fast? When Ganru Yin's innate spiritual root had improved to a violet innate spiritual root, she tried to sense and absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy. The current her, whether it was the speed at which she sensed or absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, was completely different from before. She had improved by a few levels. If I'm still in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land and still practicing Zoroastrianism, with my current innate talent, I'd be able to improve by leaps and bounds. Ganru Yin thought to herself, "You can still improve your innate spiritual root?" When Ganru Yin discovered that her innate spiritual root had improved to a violet innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian was still devouring the Devil Clan's innate spiritual roots to help her improve her innate spiritual root. She was shocked. Was it not the end of the violet innate spiritual root? Humph. There are different grades of violet innate spiritual roots as well. Your current violet innate spiritual root is only a light violet. It's the worst violet innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian grunted in a low voice as he replied lazily. In the next month or so, Ganru Yin realized she was like a frog at the bottom of a well. When her innate spiritual root had improved to a dark violet innate spiritual root, she discovered that her cultivation speed was much faster than before. Compared to when her innate spiritual root was only a light violet innate spiritual root, her cultivation speed was 10 times faster. What did this mean? No wonder. No wonder his cultivation speed is so heaven-defying. Ganru Yin finally understood why Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed was so fast. With such a method to improve his innate spiritual root, and such a high-grade innate spiritual root, how could his cultivation speed not be fast? However, Ganru Yin was unaware of this. When Duan Lingtian was in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, his cultivation speed was fast not only because of his high-grade innate spiritual root, but also because of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. At that time, if Duan Lingtian possessed a dark violet innate spiritual root, with the help of the time flow on the 4th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he would have been able to obtain a dark violet innate spiritual root. With his current cultivation base, even if he had not broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, he would have at least broken through to the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. If I'm still in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land and still practicing Zoroastrianism, With my high-grade innate spiritual root, apart from you and Kerr, who else would be a match for me? Ganru Yin sighed emotionally. High-grade innate spiritual root? Duan Lingtian shook his head when he heard Ganru Yan's words. He did not explain further. What do you mean? Don't tell me my innate spiritual root is not the highest grade innate spiritual root? Chapter 22:45. Of course not. Initially, Duan Lingtian did not intend to explain himself. However, when he heard Ganru Yan's words, he glanced at her indifferently. It's not. Ganru Yin frowned. If a dark violet innate spiritual root isn't the highest grade innate spiritual root, what's the highest grade innate spiritual root? Black innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian replied. Black innate spiritual root? Ganru Yin looked at Duan Lingtian and asked solemnly, Don't tell me your innate spiritual root is already a black innate spiritual root. She asked this question because she thought Duan Lingtian must have seen a black innate spiritual root before since he was so direct, and said the highest grade innate spiritual root was a black innate spiritual root. Perhaps he had already upgraded his innate spiritual root to the highest grade, the black innate spiritual root. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then, Ganru Yin wanted to say something but was interrupted by Duan Lingtian. I'm too lazy to explain it to you. Believe it or not, it's up to you. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was getting impatient as well. Ganru Yan's questioning clearly showed that she was doubting his words and did not believe him. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to waste his time explaining. What's with your attitude? Ganru Yin was infuriated when she saw Duan Lingtian acting in such a manner. This guy was so patient when he was with her sister. However, when he was with her, he was completely impatient. How could she not be angry? At this moment, Ganru Yin seemed to have forgotten that her sister's name was Duan Lingtian. She had forgotten that her sister was Duan Lingtian's wife. Sister, Seeling's innate spiritual root is a black innate spiritual root. Moreover, there's no room for improvement. That's why Brother Tian said a black innate spiritual root is the highest grade innate spiritual root. Seeing that her sister was anxious, Kerr hurriedly explained. Seeling has a black innate spiritual root? Upon hearing Kerr's words, Ganru Yin instinctively extended her divine consciousness to probe the innate spiritual root in the depths of Duan Seeling's soul. At this moment, Duan Seeling was sleeping in Duan Lingtian's arms. Duan Lingtian, naturally, knew what Ganru Yin was trying to do when he sensed her divine consciousness moving toward him. He wanted to stop her, but on second thought, Ganru Yin wouldn't hurt his daughter, so he dismissed the idea. It's really a black innate spiritual root. After some investigation, Ganru Yin confirmed that Kerr possessed a black innate spiritual root. If a dark violet innate spiritual root is further improved, its color will become even darker. In the end, it seems like it's only possible for it to transform into a black innate spiritual root. Ganru Yin sighed. However, after sighing, Ganru Yin looked at Duan Lingtian and Kerr before she finally looked at Duan Lingtian. I know Kerr has a violet innate spiritual root. However, your innate spiritual root isn't a violet innate spiritual root, right? What are you trying to say? Duan Lingtian asked with a frown. He could tell Ganru Yin was hinting at something. I'm thinking. Put aside the fact that your innate spiritual root was not a violet innate spiritual root. Even if it was, you and Kerr shouldn't have a child with a black innate spiritual root. After all, Kerr only has a violet innate spiritual root, Ganru Yin said. Upon hearing Ganru Yin's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but frown. If Ganru Yin did not mention this, he would not have thought about this. Indeed, just as Ganru Yin had said, even if two people with violet innate spiritual roots got together, it was still impossible for them to give birth to a child with a black innate spiritual root. After all, a black innate spiritual root was the limit of an innate spiritual root. It was extremely rare. At the very least, no one had heard of anyone with a black innate spiritual root in the history of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Seeling's innate spiritual root is indeed a black innate spiritual root. There are only two possibilities. Ganru Yin continued to say, firstly, your union caused a mutation in Seeling's innate talent. That's why she has a black innate spiritual root. Secondly, Kur is the reincarnation of the goddess that sect leader mentioned. It's not a rare thing for a descendant of the goddess to have an extreme innate spiritual root. Ganru Yin continued to talk about Kur being the reincarnation of the goddess. The reincarnation of the goddess is just a myth. Duan Lingtian rejected Ganru Yin's second possibility. Previously, when he was still in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, he had learned from the other Zoroastrianism guardians that Zoroastrianism was the reincarnation of the goddess. The sect leader of Zoroastrianism was the only person who said that the goddess was the reincarnation of the goddess. Everyone, including the three great guardians of Zoroastrianism, was certain that the goddess was the reincarnation of the goddess. The rumor that Ku-er, the saintess, was the reincarnation of the goddess was nothing but a lie. It was precisely because of this that Duan Ling Tian had spoken in such a manner. I don't think so. Ganru Yin shook her head and said, if Kur isn't the reincarnation of the goddess, why is our innate talent so different? Her innate spiritual root is a dark violet innate spiritual root, but I don't even have a light violet innate spiritual root, let alone a dark violet innate spiritual root. Do you think it's reasonable for Kur to not be the reincarnation of the goddess? Ganru Yin asked as she looked at Duan Lingtian. Currently, Ganru Yin had begun to address her sister as Kur. This was because she knew that her younger sister preferred this name. Duan Lingtian was rendered speechless when he heard Ganru Yin's words. Indeed, if there was no such thing as the reincarnation of the goddess, Ganru Yin and Kur would not be so different even if there was a difference in their innate talent. Naturally, it's also possible that Kur's innate talent has mutated. After all, only one of our parents has a light indigo innate spiritual root, while the other only has a blue innate spiritual root. Ganru Yin continued to say, Sealing's innate talent is similar to Sealing's. Sealing's current condition is similar to Ku-er's condition. Their innate talent is either due to a mutation or due to some other reason. For example, Ku-er is the reincarnation of a goddess. Ganru Yan's words connected Duan Lingtian and Kur's daughter, Duan Sealing, to Kur's situation. The mother and daughter's situation was similar. Upon hearing Ganru Yan's words, Duan Lingtian began to waver. To be honest, he still believed in the so-called reincarnation. After all, to a certain extent, he was reincarnated. In his past life, he was the strongest weapons specialist on Earth. However, due to an accident, his soul had transmigrated to this world and was reincarnated. However, up until now, only the sect leader of Zoroastrianism was certain that Kur was the reincarnation of the goddess. Other Zoroastrianism members did not believe it. This affected Duan Lingtian's judgment to a certain extent. Moreover, based on Ganru Yan's words, Duan Lingtian did not know what to believe. The more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. In the end, Duan Lingtian could not be bothered to think about it anymore. Regardless of whether Ku-er is the reincarnation of a goddess or not, she's still my wife. This is a fact that can't be changed. It's the same for Sealing as well. No matter what the reason is, she possesses a black innate spiritual root. She's still my daughter. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes shone with determination. After helping Ganru Yin improve her dark purple innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian discovered that there were still many devil clans on the mortal continent. I'll continue to search and improve my innate spiritual root. I'll look around to see if Father, Mother, and Little Fei are still on the mortal continent. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he continued to bring the three women to places on the mortal continent that they had not been to before. Duan Lingtian killed the devil clans one after another. Their innate spiritual roots became nutrients for Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root, paving the way for his innate spiritual root to become a black innate spiritual root. Unfortunately, the difference between a black innate spiritual root and a violet innate spiritual root was too big. Even if it was a dark purple innate spiritual root, it would still take a long time for it to become a black innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian had a deep feeling about this when he finished searching the last mortal continent. This was because he had not even touched the threshold to becoming a black innate spiritual root yet. I've searched all three mortal continents, but Father, Mother, and Little Fei aren't here. My next step is to search the sea to see if they're hiding somewhere. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian brought the three women away from the mortal continent and traveled through the sea between the mortal continent and the Dao Martial Saint Land. The sea was vast and boundless. Although it could not be compared to the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was not smaller than the three mortal continents combined. For half a year, Duan Lingtian brought the three women and traveled through the sea. During this process, he had also encountered many demons. These devils were much stronger and had higher innate talents than the devils he had encountered in the three mortal continents. In comparison, the quality of their innate spiritual roots was much higher as well. For this reason, after half a year, Duan Lingtian had not only touched the threshold to becoming a black innate spiritual root. Moreover, he was only a step away from becoming a black innate spiritual root. I'm just one step away from transforming my innate spiritual root into a black innate spiritual root. Moreover, a black innate spiritual root doesn't seem to have a light black or dark black color. Look at my current innate spiritual root. If I take another step, it'll be completely black. The initial black luster on it is similar to the luster on Sealing's black innate spiritual root. Chapter 22:46. I wonder how much faster my cultivation speed will be after my innate spiritual root has completely transformed into a black innate spiritual root. I'm really looking forward to it. As Duan Lingtian muttered to himself, his eyes shone brightly as though they could burn the heavens and earth. Although his cultivation speed was much faster than when his violet innate spiritual root had just transformed into a dark violet innate spiritual root, it was still not enough. Due to this reason, there was a limit to how much it could improve. Currently, although Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root was only a step away from a black innate spiritual root, the gap was insurmountable. If Duan Lingtian did not manage to cross the gap, his innate spiritual root would only be a violet innate spiritual root. However, once he crossed the gap, his innate spiritual root would completely transform into a black innate spiritual root. His innate talent would also transform from a pheasant to a phoenix. As for how much his innate talent would improve, he would only know when the time came. Unfortunately, there's still no news about father, mother, and little Fayer. After Duan Lingtian shifted his attention away from his innate spiritual root, he could not help but sigh. During this half a year, he had not forgotten to search for his family and friends while he was killing the devil clans and devouring their innate spiritual roots. However, even after half a year had passed, he still did not find anything. It's been a year since I left the human devil saint city. I wonder what's the situation in the WCI subterranean? Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian had left the human devil saint city for a year. During this year, he had spent half of his time in the various seas. The other half had been given to the three mortal continents. During this time, Duan Lingtian had swept through the devil clans in the three mortal continents and the various seas. Countless devil clans had died in his hands. Moreover, he had even annihilated many devil clans. Naturally, the devil clans he had killed were from the bottom of the devil clans in the land of exile. Compared to the entire demon race, it was not even worth mentioning. Therefore, their annihilation did not cause too much of a commotion. Now, return to the WCI subterranean. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian brought the three ladies back to the WCI subterranean. Since father, mother, and little Fei aren't in the mortal continent or the various seas, there's only one possibility. They're still in the WCI subterranean. Because of this, Duan Lingtian brought the three women back to the WCI subterranean. Duan Lingtian brought the three girls back to the WCI subterranean. Regardless of whether it was in the various seas or the three mortal continents, many of the devilish beings who had managed to survive for various reasons had also fled in a panicked manner. When they returned to the WCI subterranean, a shocking piece of news spread everywhere. A human powerhouse had wiped out the devilish beings in the three mortal continents and the various seas. He had even annihilated many devil clans. Although this piece of news had spread far and wide, it did not garner much attention. According to some of the devil clan's powerhouses, that human powerhouse can only find a sense of presence among the weaklings of the devil clan. If he's really capable, he should come to the Debussy subterranean. Some of the Devil Clan's powerhouses even said, as long as that human powerhouse dares to show himself in the Debussy subterranean, he won't be able to return. When this piece of news reached Duan Lingtian's ears, Duan Lingtian had already brought the three women back to the human devil holy city. As long as I dare to show myself in the Debussy subterranean, I won't be able to return? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as a disdainful sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. With his current strength, he was not afraid of devils below the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if he had to face a devil at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, as long as he had time to prepare, he might be able to put up a fight. If he used the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, he was confident he would be able to kill devils below the imminent Celestial stage. Even if he did not have time to prepare, he was confident he would be able to kill most ordinary devils at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage with the Devil Seal Tablet, even if he did not dare to say he would be able to kill all devils below the imminent Celestial stage. And this is because the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, is missing a corner. It's incomplete. If the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, is complete, I might be able to kill devils at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage if my cultivation base improves to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly when he thought about this. They were like two dazzling stars in the night sky. Although I haven't fully immersed myself in cultivation in the past year, I haven't slacked off either. Currently, I'm only half a step away from breaking through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if my innate spiritual root hasn't transformed into a black innate spiritual root, I'm confident I'll be able to break through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage within a month. At that time, I'll join the Wandering Saint Palace. Previously, when Duan Lingtian was on his way back to the Human Devil Saint City, he had already planned his next step. Once his cultivation base broke through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, he would join the Wandering Saint Palace, one of the 3 palaces and 6 halls of the Human Devil clan. He would strive to become a high-ranking official in the Wandering Saint Palace and slowly gain control of the Wandering Saint Palace. One had to admit that Duan Lingtian was very ambitious. His goal was to take control of the Wandering Saint Palace and turn it into his own force. Once I gain control of the Wandering Saint Palace, not only will it be easier for me to search for my parents, little Fei and the others, but I'll also be able to lead the Wandering Saint Palace to side with the humans during the Great Human Devil War. This was the reason why Duan Lingtian wanted to join the Wandering Saint Palace and gain control of the Wandering Saint Palace. The Palace Master of the Wandering Saint Palace is a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. It's said that he's not an ordinary powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Once my cultivation base has broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, I might be able to defeat him with the help of the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone with confidence when he thought about this. At this moment, Duan Lingtian and the 3 women were in a private room in a restaurant in the Human Devil Saint City. The private room was close to the main hall of the restaurant, so one could hear the commotion outside. Apart from the occasional mention of how many low-level demons had been killed by a human expert on the 3 mortal continents and the various seas, most people were still discussing how the young elites of the 3 palaces and 6 halls had been killed a year ago. I can't believe this matter is still not over after a year. Duan Lingtian sighed as a strange expression appeared on his face. There are actually people who suspect the deaths of the young powerhouses from the 3 palaces and 6 halls in the ruin left behind by a celestial-grade saint inscription master has something to do with the Wandering Saint Palace. The reason they had such suspicions was because other than the 3 disciples from the Wandering Saint Palace who had died outside the ruin, none of the disciples who had entered the ruin had died. Among the people from the 3 palaces and 6 halls who had entered the ruin, only the disciples from the Wandering Saint Palace were safe. As long as it was a normal person, they would definitely be suspicious. Although they were suspicious, the 3 palaces and 6 halls would not make things difficult for the Wandering Saint Palace before they had any evidence. It seems like some of the human devils I killed in the ruins left behind by the quasi-celestial grade Saint Inscription Master are quite powerful. It's already been a year, but the 3 palaces and 6 halls still haven't given up and are still investigating. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. However, he was not worried the 3 palaces and 6 halls would find out he was the culprit. As long as Huang Wenjing from the Wandering Saint Palace did not say anything, no one would know he was the culprit. Moreover, even if the 3 palaces and 6 halls found out he was the culprit, he would not have anything to fear as long as he had more time. However, the most important thing now is to break through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage as soon as possible. At that time, even if I join the Wandering Saint Palace, I'll still be able to make a name for myself with my strength. Duan Lingtian was eager to find a place to cultivate when he thought about this. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Duan Lingtian brought the 3 ladies out of the restaurant and found an inn to stay in. This inn was the same one he had stayed in with the 3 ladies previously. It was one of the properties of the Crimson Blaze Palace, one of the 3 palaces and 6 halls in the Human Devil clan. It was very safe. Before returning to the Human Devil Saint City, Duan Lingtian killed a few more human devils and absorbed the devil chi in their bodies. He hid the devil chi in his and the 3 ladies' bodies to prevent their identities from being exposed. If their identities were exposed, they would become the enemy of the entire Human Devil clan. With Duan Lingtian's current strength, he was not strong enough to go against the entire Human Devil clan. Kerr, I won't be in closed-door cultivation for more than a month. Don't go out during this time. Duan Lingtian told Kerr before he went into closed-door cultivation. Okay. Kerr nodded obediently. While Duan Lingtian was in closed-door cultivation, whoosh, a figure that was like a hurricane appeared at the location of the inter-province transportation formation in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He's back. The figure belonged to a young man dressed in a long green robe. His facial features were similar to Duan Lingtian's. He was none other than Duan Rufeng, who had been sent away by the Age Soul devouring blood formation a year ago. Previously, Duan Rufeng had been sent to the land of exile when he entered the transportation formation activated by the Age Soul devouring blood formation. The land of exile was a completely unfamiliar place to Duan Rufeng. Moreover, most of the devils in the land of exile had gone to the Dao Martial Saint Land, causing the land of exile to become much emptier. Chapter 2247. A year ago, the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was in an uproar because of a young powerhouse called Duan Lingtian. That young powerhouse was not even 50 years old, but he possessed terrifying strength. He was widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, when the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were waiting for him to continue to shine, he suddenly disappeared. However, he had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Some said he was in closed-door cultivation to break through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Some said he might have broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage and was waiting for the Celestial Ascension Tribulation to become an eminent Celestial. In any case, there had been no news about him since a year ago. A year's time was neither too long nor too short. Although the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had not completely forgotten about him, they paid less and less attention to him as time passed. During this 1 year, the Dao Martial Saint Land was not peaceful at all. An ancient sect had appeared once again. This sect was called the 7 Absolutes sect. It was a top sect that once stood at the peak of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It said that when the 7 Absolutes sect was at its peak, the 3 most powerful sects in the Dao Martial Saint Land had to band together in order to survive. Currently, many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land knew about the history of the past. When the 3 great sects faced the 7 Absolute sect, they had to band together to survive. Is this for real? Isn't this too exaggerated and unbelievable? Naturally, many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were skeptical. After all, the 3 great sects were the strongest forces in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. If any one of the sects stood out alone, there would be no 4th power that could compete with them. Now, someone was saying that there was once a sect called the 7 Absolutes sect that suppressed the 3 great sects to the point they could not even lift their heads. How could they believe this? Unbelievable? Unbelievable? Faced with the doubts of many people, Those who knew the truth shook their heads and smiled. At this moment, many people who were in the know continued to leak out more information. Since you doubt the strength of the Seven Absolute Sect, you can't possibly doubt the strength of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, the prodigy of our Tao martial saint land, right? The prodigy Sword Saint, Feng Qingyang. Upon hearing this name, most of the people from the upper province of the Tao martial saint land could not help but gasp before an expression of reverence appeared on their faces. Even the people from the three great sects were no exception. If one said, in the history of the Tao martial saint land, whose name could be passed down from ancient times and still be remembered by the people after 100,000 years, only prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang. Legend had Feng Qingyang, prodigy sword saint land, Feng Qingyang, and prodigy sword saint land. During that time, not only was he the main character, but he was also like a ruler. Throughout the history of the Tao martial saint land, there was only one person who had managed to kill an eminent celestial who had passed the heavenly tribulation before he had even passed the heavenly tribulation. That person was none other than the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang. It's said that during the era of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, before he underwent the heavenly tribulation, the number of eminent celestials who died in his hands was more than 10. Moreover, he killed all of them with just a sword strike. Feng Qingyang's deeds had been passed down for generations in the Tao martial saint land. For this reason, there were not many people in the Tao martial saint land who did not know about Feng Qingyang. It was all because the deeds he had left behind all those years ago were truly too shocking. His battle record had never been broken by anyone to this day. Feng Qingyang's greatest battle was when he fought 3 eminent celestials who had joined forces before he passed the heavenly tribulation. The 3 eminent celestials died in the battle. I've heard about that battle as well. It's said that Feng Qingyang only used 2 swords to kill them. With his cultivation base at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, he killed 3 eminent celestials who had joined forces with just 2 swords. It's the most shocking battle in the history of the Tao martial saint land. It's precisely because of this battle that the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang's name was passed down even after 100,000 years. Almost everyone in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land who had lived for a long time knew about the prodigy sword saint in the Tao martial saint land. Moreover, they knew this prodigy sword saint had killed 3 eminent celestials with just 2 swords when his cultivation base was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Both parties were prepared for that battle. There was no sneak attack at all. Because of this, that battle was still passed down even after 100,000 years. Due to that battle, people knew about the prodigy sword saint. There was once such a monstrous and powerful sword cultivator in the Tao martial saint land. Before the prodigy sword Saint Feng Qingyang ascended, he was the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect. When this news spread, it caused a commotion in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land. The prodigy sword Saint Feng Qingyang was the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect? This is my first time hearing about this. It's said that the reason the 7 Absolute sect was able to suppress the 3 great sects was partly because of the other members of the 7 Absolute sect. However, most importantly, it was because of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. If the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang, is really from the 7 Absolute sect, then I believe the 7 Absolute sect was able to suppress the 3 great sects. I believe so too. With the prodigy sword saint's strength, I'm afraid he could annihilate the 3 great sects if he wanted to. I think so too. Before Duan Lingtian left, the upper province of the Tao martial saint land was shaken because of him. In the 1 year after Duan Lingtian left, the upper province of the Tao martial saint land was shaken because of the 7 Absolute sect. The people in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land knew about the 7 Absolute sect because of the 7 Absolute sect. In the past 1 year, the disciples of the 7 Absolute sect had appeared in various places in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land and challenged various powerhouses. I'm Gu Li, the successor of the Kratos progeny, the 3rd Absolute of the 7 Absolute sect. A young powerhouse called Gu Li had appeared in a first-rate force in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land a year ago. He had defeated the leader of the first-rate force and entered the 39th place on the Supreme Saint ranking. After defeating the leader of the first-rate force, he had left these words behind before he left. From then on, the name of the Seven Absolutes sect began to spread in a small circle. Yu Wuing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. When the feminine voice resounded in the Heaven Divination sect's encampment, a voice rang out. An oracle at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage in the Heaven Divination sect was assassinated. The entire Heaven Divination sect was shocked. Provocation. It was a blatant provocation. The Heaven Divination sect and the Seven Absolutes sect were mortal enemies. Now that a disciple from the Seven Absolutes sect had appeared in the Heaven Divination sect's estate and assassinated their high priest, it was only natural that the Heaven Divination sect was furious. The great priest of the Heaven Divination sect, Xian, was so furious that he personally made a move to capture the disciple from the Seven Absolute sect who called himself Yu Wuing. However, he did not manage to capture him in the end. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation to the Heaven Divination sect. For this reason, the sect leader of the Heaven Divination sect had personally ordered the sect to keep this news a secret. However, could such a huge matter be concealed just by blocking the news? Soon after, news of this matter spread out of the Heaven Divination sect in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, shocking everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Isn't that person from the Seven Absolutes sect too bold? He actually dared to sneak into the Heaven Divination sect and assassinate an oracle at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, and he even succeeded. Rumor has it that the oracle was killed by him with just a single strike. Although the Heaven Divination sect didn't manage to keep the news a secret, they managed to conceal the identity of the Heaven Divination sect's high priest. I wonder who the high priest is? Although the oracles of the Heaven Divination sect are all at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, there's still a huge gap in their strength. I wonder who Yu Wuing killed? Currently, even the Supreme Saint ranking can't give him a ranking. Even the weakest oracle in the Heaven Divination sect is ranked in the top 30 of the Supreme Saint ranking. Yu Wuing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, is definitely ranked in the top 30 of the Supreme Saint ranking. Yu Wuing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, had become famous in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. That damned ladyboy. He actually made such a big deal out of it. Guli could not help but curse inwardly when he heard about this matter. A hint of jealousy could be seen in his eyes. He was jealous that Yu Wuing was more famous than him. Although he was jealous, he knew he was not as powerful as Yu Wuing for now. Put aside the fact that Yu Wuing's foundation was better than his current strength was stronger than his as well. Even if Yu Wuing's current strength was on par with his, he might not be able to kill someone that Yu Wuing could kill. After all, Yu Wuing was the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. He was skilled in assassinations and could often kill his enemies without them noticing. The successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect? Seven Absolute sect? Seven Absolutes. Does this mean there are seven absolutes in the Seven Absolute sect? As the news of Yu Wuing assassinating the Heaven Divination sect's high priest spread, his name spread in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Many people began to study the words he left behind in the Heaven Divination sect. The words mentioned that he was the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, and the meaning of this sentence was unknowingly explained to the world. Chapter 22:48. Naturally, there are other progenies in the Seven Absolutes sect. There were many knowledgeable people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land who had a certain understanding of the Seven Absolutes sect. The Seven Absolutes sect is divided into seven absolutes. The first absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect belongs to the progeny of the Sword Saint, Feng Qingyang. That Sword Saint was known as the successor of the Fog Rain progeny in his era. In other words, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute sect is the Fog Rain progeny. When this news spread, it caused a commotion in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. As it turned out, the Sword Saint, Feng Qingyang, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, was the successor of the fog rain progeny, the first absolute of the seven absolutes sect. After the first absolute, there are six absolutes. The second absolute is the prophet progeny. The oracle man who's wanted by the three great sects in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land is actually the successor of the prophet progeny of the seven absolutes sect. When this news spread, it caused another commotion in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. If one were to say previously, they had never heard of the seven absolutes sect. They had only heard of the sword saint, Feng Qingyang. As for the old man of heavenly secrets, his name was like thunder in their ears. Although the oracle man's cultivation base was not high, and he was ranked in the hundreds of places on the supreme saint ranking, he was able to predict the future. However, his ability to see the future was famous in the Tao Martial Saint Land. He was even given the title of Peerless Divine by the people in the Tao Martial Saint Land. In the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, many people wanted to have their fortunes told by the oracle man. However, not many people got what they wanted. And some lucky people, after receiving the guidance of Elder Tianji, who were already entangled in fate, were able to further improve their purple chi from the east. Those who were about to face calamity were able to turn misfortune into blessings, reversing their fates. There were even some who managed to save their lives. It was precisely because of the experiences of these lucky people that the oracle man was pushed to the top and made the oracle man famous in the Tao Martial Saint Land. In the Tao Martial Saint Land, regardless of whether it was the lower province or the upper province, the name the oracle man was well known. I didn't expect the oracle man to be from the seven absolutes sect. The oracle man, the second absolute of the seven absolutes sect, prophet. I really didn't expect this. I was wondering why the three great sects would target the oracle man. As it turns out, it's because the oracle man is from the seven absolutes sect. Given the enmity between the three great sects and the seven absolutes sect, since the oracle man is a member of the seven absolutes sect, they must see the oracle man as a thorn in their side, even if the oracle man is no threat to them. At this moment, the people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land finally understood the reason why the three great sects were targeting the oracle man apart from the fog rain absolute and the prophet absolute. I only know about the dark shadow absolute. Who knows about the other four absolutes in the seven absolutes sect? More and more people were curious about the seven absolutes sect that had been sealed away for many years. After all, it was a powerful sect that once stood at the peak of the Tao Martial Saint Land. Even the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang, was from there. I know about one of the other four absolutes. It's the third absolute, Kratos. The successor of the Kratos progeny is called Gu Li. Not long ago, he defeated the sect leader of a first-rate sect. His name will appear on the next Supreme Saint ranking. Although the sect leader of the first-rate sect that Gu Li defeated was not weak, his presence in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land was nothing compared to the three great sections. For this reason, he was not as famous as Yu Wuing. While the people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land were paying attention to the seven absolutes sect, another shocking piece of news spread and shocked the entire upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. A young woman who claimed to be the successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the seven absolute sect, killed the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism outside the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate. I think her name is Han Xuanai. The moment this news spread, it swept through the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land like a hurricane. Although the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism was only at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, he was ranked in the top 20 on the Supreme Saint ranking. However, he was killed by a young woman. Most importantly, it was a young woman. Han Xuanai was the successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the seven absolute sect. When the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism was killed, a commotion broke out in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. The high-ranking officials of Zhuangzi Buddhism, led by Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of Zhuangzi Buddhism, began to search for Han Xuanai in a frenzy. Unfortunately, no matter how big of a commotion they caused, they still could not find Han Xuanai. Shouldn't the seven absolutes of the seven absolutes sect be weaker as they rank lower? Many people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land were puzzled when they learned that Han Xuanai was only the successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the seven absolute sect. The members of the seven absolute sect are each stronger than the other. I'm afraid Han Shuanai is stronger than Yu Wuing, the successor of the dark shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the seven absolute sect. I think so too. Most importantly, she's a woman. In the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, there aren't many women who are ranked in the top 20 of the Supreme Saint ranking. The Seven Absolute Sect is indeed a powerful sect that once stood at the peak of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Even a female member is so powerful. To a certain extent, Han Shuanai's appearance was even more shocking. After all, she was a woman. In this world, women were born weak. In terms of innate talent, they were generally inferior to men. Who said women were inferior to men? Han Shuanai's appearance seemed to be telling all the men in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, do not underestimate women. It's said that there are very few people in the Seven Absolute sect. However, under such circumstances, there's actually such a powerful female member. How rare. That's right. This is too shocking. Many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were still lamenting about this. An even more shocking piece of news swept through the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land from the central province. Feng Tianwu, the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. When the soft and melodious voice of a woman resounded in the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate, one of the two remaining great Karmapa in the Zhuangzi Buddhism, the White Tiger King, had died. The person who killed the White Tiger King was none other than Feng Tianwu, who claimed to be the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. It was said that after Feng Tianwu killed the White Tiger King, she left a message and left. Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism, who had arrived a little later, was so furious that his face turned green. He flew into a rage and destroyed a mountain near the Zhuangzi Buddhism's estate. The successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, Feng Tianwu. My goodness, another female disciple. Who said women are not as good as men? The female members of the Seven Absolute sect are really valiant. Even the strongest male member of the Seven Absolute sect, Yu Wuing, pales in comparison to Feng Tianwu. The Seven Invincible sect is a sect led by women. Feng Tianwu's attack had shocked everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, the most shocking thing about her was her gender. The Seven Absolutes sect had very few members, and it was already shocking that a powerful female member like Han Shuanai had appeared. Now, there was another person like Feng Tianwu. The successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, is really powerful. Even the White Tiger King from the Zhuangzi Buddhism, a powerhouse at the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage, who was ranked 11th on the Supreme Saint ranking, was killed by her. Currently, the only female powerhouse who's ranked higher than her on the Supreme Saint ranking is the Violet Dragon King from the Zhuangzi Buddhism, right? I think so. Not only did Feng Tianwu's appearance shocked everyone, but it also made them realize how terrifying the Seven Absolute sect that had been sealed for many years was. The Seven Absolute sect would not appear in the world. Now that they had appeared, it was truly terrifying. We have to work harder. Otherwise, people will really think that the men of the Seven Absolute sect are weak. When they learned that Feng Tianwu had killed the White Tiger King from the Zhuangzi Buddhism, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi, the successors of the Didymus progeny, the sixth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, felt a great deal of pressure. Although they had joined forces to defeat a powerhouse at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage who had made a name for himself for many years, they were still able to defeat him. In terms of reputation, he was not even comparable to an ordinary high-ranking official at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage in the three great sects. No matter how weak a powerhouse at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage was, he would still be a vice-sect leader in the three great sections. That person hasn't made her move yet. I wonder how shocked the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land will be when she makes her move. Nangong Yi muttered to himself. Upon hearing Nangong Yi's words, Nangong Chan nodded solemnly. He agreed with Nangong Yi's words. In a direct confrontation, that person might be on par with Feng Tianwu. The the successor of the blazing phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the seven absolute sect. However, that person's most terrifying technique was not a direct confrontation. This was because she was a Tao cultivator. Moreover, she was a heaven-defying Tao cultivator who could determine the life and death of a person from 10,000 miles away. Seven Absolute Sect, the successor of the prophet progeny, the last disciple of the oracle man, when the cold female voice resounded in the central main hall of the Heaven Divination Sect's estate. The sect leader of Heaven Divination Sect, a powerhouse at the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage, was killed in front of Xian, the Grand Priest of Heaven Divination Sect. When the sect leader of Heaven Divination Sect died, he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. There were no external injuries at all. Moreover, he had fallen in front of the high-ranking officials of Heaven Divination Sect, led by Xian, the Grand Priest of Heaven Divination Sect. From the beginning until the end, even Xian, the Grand Priest of Heaven Divination Sect, who was ranked 3rd on the Supreme Saint ranking, did not see anyone attacking the sect leader of Heaven Divination Sect. Roar. Xian was furious when he saw the sect leader of Heaven Divination Sect being killed in front of him. He roared as he searched for the culprit. Chapter 22:49. Meanwhile, the sect leader of Heaven Divination Sect was silently killed. In a small valley 10,000 miles away from the Heaven Divination Sect's estate, a woman hovered in the air. Her delicate body trembled slightly. She was dressed in a snow-white robe. She looked like a celestial maiden who had descended from the heavens. She, who had an outstanding temperament, made everything around her seem to be overshadowed. The woman's waist-length hair fell to her back like a waterfall from the 9 heavens. Although her face was covered by a white veil, her face was flawless. However, looking at the other half of her face that was flawless, as if it had been carefully sculpted, it was not hard to imagine the peerless beauty under the white veil. She stood there without any deliberate movements, but she was like an ice goddess. She invisibly emitted waves of ice-cold aura, causing the temperature of the surrounding air to drop a few degrees. It's quite difficult to kill a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage with the life-reversing curse, the woman murmured to herself. At this moment, as the woman muttered to herself, the beautiful face under the veil paled slightly. It was as if she had suffered a great deal of pressure in that instant. As soon as the woman finished speaking, she seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind and disappeared, returning peace to the small valley. At this moment, if there was another person here, he or she would be shocked to see the same thing. The originally lush greenery within a 100-meter radius of the small valley withered as soon as the woman left. It was as though they had lost all their vitality in just a blink of an eye. The originally lush greenery within a 100-meter radius turned yellow in just a blink of an eye. The area where the small valley was located was originally a stretch of emerald green. Now that a withered and yellow land with a radius of 100 meters had suddenly appeared, it was especially eye-catching if one were to look down from the sky. After a few hours, Xian, the Grand Priest of Heaven Divination Sect, flew over the area. When he looked down and saw the withered and yellow land amidst the emerald green, his eyes suddenly narrowed. After which, he stepped on the air and landed in the small valley. I remember this place used to be lush greenery. However, all the greenery within a 100-meter radius has withered. Furthermore, my divine sense can still sense the life force that is constantly fading away from their bodies. Xian's expression turned even more solemn when he realized this. In other words, the flowers and trees in this area began to wither not long ago. Moreover, they withered in an instant. At this moment, a thought flashed through Xian's mind. As the Heaven Divination sect master bled to death from his 7 orifices and fell to the ground, the words that reverberated in the void echoed in his ears. 7 Absolute Sect, the current successor of the divination lineage, the last disciple of the oracle man, this sentence was also a reminder to him. The person who had attacked was the current successor of the 7 Absolute Sect's heavenly fate line. Moreover, it was a female disciple of the 7 Absolute Sect. 7 Absolute Sect, heavenly oracle lineage. At the same time, He began to search for information about the seven absolute sect's second absolute, the prophet progeny, in his mind. After all, he was the great oracle of the heaven divination sect. He had lived for a long time, so it was only natural that he knew a lot about the ancient records in the heaven divination sect. Among the records, he knew about the era when the seven absolute sect suppressed the three great sects, including the heaven divination sect. During the era when the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang, was still alive, the successors of the other six absolutes of the seven absolute sect were all outstanding. Even if they didn't rely on the seven absolute sect, they were still famous in the Tao martial saint land at that time. Although the successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the seven absolute sect, had the weakest cultivation base, he knew a heaven-defying curse art. He was the first known heaven-defying Tao cultivator in the Tao martial saint land. However, the successor of the prophet's cultivation base was only at the sixth form of the saint celestial stage. It's said that he died of old age. The people he could kill with the heaven-defying art of cursing were at the seventh form of the saint celestial stage at most. He didn't have the ability to kill someone at the eighth form of the saint celestial stage. Imo Xian, the great oracle of heaven divination sect, narrowed his eyes when he thought of this. An expression of horror appeared on his face as he thought to himself, "It seems like the current successor of the heavenly legacy sect is also a heaven-defying Tao cultivator." Not only did she inherit the heaven-defying curse art from the successor of the prophet progeny from the seven absolute sect, but her cultivation base is also quite high. At the very least, her cultivation base is at the seventh form of the saint celestial stage. Otherwise, it's impossible for her to kill the sect leader of the heaven divination sect. When Imo Xian, the grand oracle of heaven divination sect, thought to himself, his expression darkened immediately. It was so dark that it seemed as though water would drip from his face at any moment. Once the life-reversing art of cursing is used, everything within 100-meter radius will wither and die, devoid of life. Based on his understanding of the successor of the prophet progeny, Imo Xian was certain of this. For this reason, he was certain the successor of the prophet progeny from the seven absolute sect was also a heaven-defying Tao cultivator who had mastered the heaven-defying curse art. A heaven-defying Tao cultivator has appeared again. Moreover, this heaven-defying Tao cultivator's cultivation base is much stronger than the successor of the prophet progeny. She's at least at the seventh form of the saint celestial stage. Imo Xian's pupils shrank as he muttered to himself. A heaven-defying Tao cultivator was terrifying. Although the successor of the prophet progeny from the seven absolutes sect only had a cultivation base at the sixth form of the saint celestial stage, he had struck fear into the hearts of the people in the Tao martial saint land. This was because he could use the heaven-defying curse art to kill people from thousands of miles away. This was even more terrifying than the successor of the dark shadow progeny from the seven absolute sect. At the very least, the dark shadow progeny would have to personally make a move. However, the successor of the prophet progeny did not have to personally make a move. He could kill people with just a thought. Back then, the successor of the prophet progeny from the seven absolute sect was feared by all those below the eighth form of the saint celestial stage. After all, he could kill them with just a thought. Moreover, they would be killed without even realizing it. However, since the successor of the prophet progeny's cultivation base has stagnated at the sixth form of the saint celestial stage, it'll be difficult for him to make any progress. After all, if he doesn't break through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, it'll only be a matter of time before he dies. As long as he dies, there won't be any heaven-defying Tao cultivators in this world. Not only did Imo Xian not heave a sigh of relief, but his expression was solemn as well. However, not only did the successor of the prophet progeny from the seven absolutes sect have a heaven-defying Tao cultivator, but she's at the seventh form of the saint celestial stage or above. This means she has an endless lifespan. As long as there are no accidents, she'll be able to cultivate to the ninth form of the saint celestial stage sooner or later. Imo Xian's heart skipped a beat when he thought about this. How powerful was a heaven-defying Tao cultivator at the ninth form of the saint celestial stage? With just a thought, she could cast the heaven-defying art of cursing. Would anyone below the level of an eminent celestial be able to survive? Although I'm certain there's a limit to a heaven-defying secret tactic like the heaven-defying art of cursing, anyone who doesn't know the limit would treat it like the Grim Reaper. Even Imo, the great priest of the heaven divination sect who was at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, was no exception to this. After so many years, not only has the Seven Absolutes sect reappeared, but the second Absolute, the Prophet progeny, has even produced such a monstrous genius. Don't tell me the Seven Absolutes sect is going to regain its former glory and suppress our three great sects? If the successor of the Prophet progeny is already so terrifying, what would happen if the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, appears? Imo shuddered in fear when he thought about this. At the same time, he also realized the Seven Absolutes sect must have come prepared this time. The sect leader of Heaven Divination sect had been killed in front of Imo, the great priest of Heaven Divination sect, who was ranked third on the Supreme Saint ranking. When this news spread from the Heaven Divination sect's estate, it naturally shocked the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. The successor of the Prophet progeny and the last disciple of the Oracle Man in the Seven Absolutes sect. The words left behind by the person who killed the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect spread like wildfire in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. I heard the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, who killed the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect, is a woman? Everyone in the Heaven Divination sect heard it clearly. It was a woman's voice. Heavens! Are all the women in the Seven Absolutes sect so fierce? First, there was Han Shuanai, then there was Feng Tianwu. Now, there's a successor of the Prophet progeny who's a woman. That's not the point. The point is, when the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect died, the great priest of Heaven Divination sect, Imo, was right next to him. However, even Imo didn't sense any danger before the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect was killed. This is the most terrifying part. Don't tell me the successor of the Prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect is an eminent celestial? Even Imo, the great priest of Heaven Divination sect, didn't see any signs of her attack? Impossible. If the successor of the Prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect is an eminent celestial, based on the enmity between the Heaven Divination sect and the Seven Absolutes sect, she would have annihilated the Heaven Divination sect a long time ago. Why would she only kill the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect? You're right. However, what's going on? Those in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land shuddered when they heard about the technique the successor of the Prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect used to kill people. Don't tell me the successor of the Prophet progeny from the Seven Absolute sect is also a heaven-defying Dao cultivator? Chapter 2251. A heaven-defying Dao cultivator? What's that? I know about Dao cultivators, but what's a heaven-defying Dao cultivator? This is my first time hearing about a heaven-defying Dao cultivator as well. Most people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land were confused when they heard people speculating that the current successor of the Prophet progeny was a heaven-defying Dao cultivator. What was a heaven-defying Dao cultivator? As those who speculated that the current successor of the Seven Absolutes sect was a heaven-defying Dao cultivator gave further explanations, the others finally understood the meaning of the words heaven-defying Dao cultivator. As it turns out, a heaven-defying Dao cultivator is a Dao cultivator who has mastered the heaven-defying art of cursing. There's only one heaven-defying Dao cultivator in the history of the Dao Martial Saint land. That heaven-defying Dao cultivator was the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect during the era of the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang. It's said that the successor of the Prophet progeny could kill people from 10,000 miles away with the heaven-defying art of cursing. Most importantly, with his cultivation base at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage, he could even kill people at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. During that era, people below the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage were terrified of the successor of the Prophet progeny. After all, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves if the successor of the Prophet progeny wanted to kill them. At that time, Many people rejoice that the old prophet didn't manage to break through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage. Otherwise, if he managed to break through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, he would be immortal. It was only a matter of time before he broke through to the eighth form, the ninth form, and even the eminent celestial stage. Who in the Tao Martial Saint Land would be able to defeat such a terrifying person if he broke through to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage? Everyone in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land was shocked when they learned about the heaven-defying Tao cultivator. As it turned out, there was such a heaven-defying Tao cultivator in the history of the Tao Martial Saint Land. He could kill people from 10,000 miles away. What kind of terrifying technique was that? I can't believe another heaven-defying Tao cultivator has appeared in our Tao Martial Saint Land after 100,000 years. Moreover, he's also the successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the seven absolutes sect. This successor is even more terrifying than the successor from 100,000 years ago. Based on how she managed to kill the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect from 10,000 miles away, her cultivation base is at least at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. After all, the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect is at the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage. Not only was the sect leader of Heaven Divination sect a powerhouse at the eighth form of the Saint Celestial stage, but he was also ranked 10th on the Supreme Saint ranking. Now that the successor of the prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect has killed him, he'll replace him as the 10th powerhouse on the Supreme Saint ranking. The female disciples of the Seven Invincible sect are indeed monsters. Indeed. Especially this descendant of Tianji is even more terrifying. With her suspected cultivation base at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, it's only a matter of time before she breaks through to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage and becomes an eminent celestial. The current successor of the prophet progeny from the Seven Absolute sect is indeed terrifying. Once she's fully grown, she'll be able to kill anyone with just a thought. How can there be such a terrifying technique like the heaven-defying art of cursing in this world? It's simply heaven-defying. In the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, as news of the current successor of the prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect being a heaven-defying Tao cultivator at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage spread, it caused another wave of panic. Such a terrifying heaven-defying Tao cultivator actually had an endless lifespan. Just hearing about it sent chills down people's spines. They did not feel safe at all. It's good that we didn't offend the Seven Absolutes sect. However, I'm afraid the three great sects are in trouble. Many people sighed in relief when they thought about how they did not have any conflict with the successor of the prophet progeny from the Seven Absolutes sect. While they heaved a sigh of relief, they also silently mourned for the three great sections. After all, the enmity between the three great sects and the Seven Absolute sect had been accumulated for 100,000 years. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were absolutely irreconcilable. For the current successor of the Seven Absolute sect, the sect master of the Heaven Divination sect is probably just the beginning. I think so too. With her strength, she might not be able to threaten the powerhouses at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage in the three great sections. However, she can kill those below the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage with just a thought. Terrifying. It's too scary. Most of the people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land felt that this was not the case. After the Seven Absolutes sect's current successor killed the Heaven Divination sect's sect master with the life-reversing art of curse, he would definitely make his move on the other three great sections. At this time, a different voice sounded. The Seven Absolutes sect has appeared and killed so many powerhouses from the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. Don't tell me they don't care about humans at all? After all, the devil clans from the land of exile have already invaded the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. They might invade the upper province at any time. Similar voices could be heard everywhere in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. At this time, many people disagreed with this. As far as I know, the people from the three great sects have killed countless members of the Seven Absolutes sect over the past 100,000 years. Now that the Seven Absolutes sect finally has a few outstanding disciples, don't tell me they're not allowed to take revenge? That's right. Although revenge breeds revenge, the enmity between the three great sects and the Seven Absolutes sect is already irreconcilable. In the face of such enmity, it's meaningless to talk about the righteousness of the human race. Although there were quite a few similar voices, they were still drowned out by another different voice. More people were criticizing the Seven Absolutes sect. The people from the Seven Absolutes sect are too insensible. They're still fighting among themselves and killing their own kind when the devil clans are about to invade. In the face of the greater good of humans, no matter how great the enmity is, they should let it go before the devil clans retreat. If they continue to kill each other, the devil clans will benefit in the end. Initially, I sympathized with the Seven Absolutes sect. However, after what happened recently, I no longer sympathize with them. In fact, I think they deserve it. Me too. Voices criticizing the Seven Absolutes sect could be heard everywhere in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Everyone said the Seven Absolutes sect had crossed the line. However, did the Seven Absolutes sect really cross the line? On a snow-capped peak in the northern region, an old figure knelt before a tombstone at the peak of the snow-capped peak. There was no name on the tombstone. Senior brother. After more than 300 years, that person from the Heaven Divination sect is finally dead. I'm useless for not being able to avenge you personally. However, the person who avenged you this time is my last disciple. He's also your junior nephew. He's the successor of the prophet progeny. You can finally rest in peace in the netherworld. The old man knelt before the tombstone and muttered to it. This old man was none other than the previous successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, the Oracle Man. 300 years ago, there were two successors of the prophet progeny in the Seven Absolutes sect. Apart from the Oracle Man, there was also the Oracle Man's senior brother. At that time, their whereabouts were discovered by a Heaven Divination sect's disciple. That Heaven Divination sect's disciple had chased after them for thousands of miles to kill them. The Oracle Man managed to escape with his senior brother's help and went into hiding. His senior brother, on the other hand, was captured by the Heaven Divination sect's disciple and tortured for 10 days and 10 nights before he finally breathed his last. The reason the Heaven Divination sect's disciple did that was to force the Oracle Man to come out. The Oracle Man still remembered the scene from that time. At that time, he felt like dying when he saw his senior brother being tortured. He really wanted to stand out and ask the Heaven Divination sect's disciple to kill him so that he could give his senior brother a quick death. However, he held himself back in the end. This was because he carried the heavy responsibility of inheriting the prophet progeny of the Seven Absolutes sect. At that time, if he stood out, the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, would be destroyed in his hands. At that time, both of them did not have the time to leave behind the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. Ha 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 ha. The Oracle Man suddenly laughed heartily. His laughter was filled with a sense of relief, as though he was relieved of a heavy burden. The Heaven Divination sect's disciple who tortured his senior brother for 10 days and 10 nights was the sect leader of the Heaven Divination sect. He was also the person who was killed by the Oracle Man's disciple with the heaven-reversing art of curse. In the past, he had watched as his enemy grew stronger and stronger. In the end, he even became the sect leader of the Heaven Divination sect. There were many nights when the Oracle Man woke up from his dreams in despair. However, his disciple, his senior brother's junior nephew, the successor of the prophet progeny, had killed his enemy and avenged his senior brother. How could he not be excited? How could he not be excited? Not thinking about the greater good of the human race? At some point, a graceful figure floated down from the sky and landed not far behind the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. It was a beautiful woman. She was none other than the previous successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. She was also Han Shuanai's master. If it wasn't for the devil clans that could invade the upper province at any time, and for the greater good of the human race, the three great sects would have been bathed in blood by now. The world is foolish. Who doesn't know that the people of the Seven Absolute sect are only avenging the 1,000-year-old enmity? The 1,000-year-old enmity referred to the enmity between the three great sects and the Seven Absolutes sect for killing the people of the Seven Absolute sect. In other words, the people from the three great sects that the Seven Absolute sect had killed were the people who had killed the people of the Seven Absolute sect in the past 1,000 years. P.S. These few days, I've organized a book review event with the website for my brothers and sisters. Everyone can post a review on the QQ Reading app or Genesis Chinese Network's War Sovereign Ling Tian book review section. The content can be directed at the book or a character you like. The deadline is this Friday. I'll pick out the 10 most pertinent comments from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the event and give each of them 10,000 book vouchers as a reward. I'll contact the winners and ask them to send the book vouchers to the website via QQ. Among the 10 winners, 3 of them will be lucky enough to receive a mysterious gift pack and a greeting card that I'll personally mail to them. Let's get to work now. The event will be held simultaneously on the QQ Reading app and the Genesis Chinese Network's War Honorable on the Ling Tian's War Honorable. Chapter 2252. 300 years ago, the sect leader of the Heaven Divination sect had killed the successor of the Prophet Progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, who was the Oracle Man's senior brother. 300 years later, the Oracle Man's last disciple killed him with a curse and took revenge. 200 years ago, an elder of Zhuangzi Buddhism and a disciple of Zhuangzi Buddhism had joined forces to kill the successor of the Red Dust Progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, Han Shuanai's grandmaster. The elder of Zhuangzi Buddhism at that time was now the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism. The disciple of Zhuangzi Buddhism was the White Tiger King of Zhuangzi Buddhism. Han Shuanai had killed the sect leader of Zhuangzi Buddhism and Feng Tianwu had killed the White Tiger King to avenge the successor of the Red Dust Progeny who was killed 200 years ago. 500 years ago, an elder of the Heaven Divination sect had killed the successor of the Dark Shadow Progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Currently, that elder had become an oracle of the Heaven Divination sect. 500 years later, the oracle of the Heaven Divination sect had been killed by Yu Ying, the successor of the Dark Shadow Progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Good and evil had their retribution. It was not that there was no retribution, but it was not time yet. Based on all these factors, the people of the Seven Absolute sect who had killed so many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had only avenged 1,000 years of enmity. For the past 1,000 years, there had been no conflict between Zoroastrianism and the Seven Absolute sect. For this reason, the people of the Seven Absolute sect did not target the people of Zoroastrianism. If we don't avenge 1,000 years of enmity, the people of the Seven Absolute sect won't be able to face our ancestors. At some point, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets had also stepped forward. His turbid eyes suddenly brightened, shooting out 2 sharp beams of light. The invasion of the Devil clans is imminent, and the human race is at stake. Since we've avenged 1,000 years of enmity, the Seven Absolute sect is willing to put aside the enmity for now. We'll settle the score with the 3 great sects after we defeat the Devil clans. The old prophet's words were the principle of the Seven Absolutes sect's entry into the world. The Seven Absolutes sect had a clear conscience. The enmity of 1,000 years must be avenged. As for the rest of the enmity, he could put it aside for the time being. When he defeated the demon race in the future, he would settle the debt with the 3 great sects. This was the righteousness of the human race that the members of the Seven Absolutes sect followed. If the people from the Seven Absolute sect were truly people who did not care about the righteousness of the human race, then how could the successor of the Kratos progeny, the third absolutes, Guli, the successor of the Kratos progeny, and the successors of the Gemini progeny, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi, have only defeated their opponents and become famous? With their strength, they were completely capable of killing their opponents. However, they did not do that. However, we can't let those children be wronged. Activate the Red Dust Progeny's intelligence network and spread the word about the righteousness of the human race that the Seven Absolutes sect abides by. Let the world know that the Seven Absolutes sect has a clear conscience for themselves and the righteousness of the human race. The oracle man turned to the beautiful woman and said, "I'm here to discuss this with you." After replying, the beautiful woman left in a hurry. Soon after, the news of the people from the Seven Absolutes sect avenging a 1,000-year-old enmity began to spread in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. At this moment, many people who were condemning the Seven Absolutes sect fell silent. I see. If the people from the Seven Absolutes sect are only avenging a 1,000-year-old enmity, then they have a clear conscience for themselves and the righteousness of the human race. I was wondering, the sect that Feng Qingyang, the prodigy sword saint, used to be and shouldn't be a sect that doesn't care about the righteousness of the human race. As it turns out, there's a reason for this. It's understandable. That's right. A 1,000-year-old enmity is only a 1,000-year-old enmity. If they don't take revenge, they won't be able to face their ancestors who were only 1 or 2 generations away from them. It's understandable why the people from the Seven Absolutes sect did this. As the news of the people from the Seven Absolutes sect avenging a 1,000-year-old enmity spread, the voices in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land changed. Initially, they were still condemning the Seven Absolutes sect. Now, they were more concerned about why the people from the Seven Absolutes sect had targeted the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. Naturally, there were still some people who continued to condemn the Seven Absolutes sect. They felt the Seven Absolutes sect should not take revenge for a 1,000-year-old enmity. They should prioritize the righteousness of the human race. However, these people were in the minority. Their voices were quickly drowned out. They did not cause any commotion at all. No wonder the people from the Seven Absolutes sect didn't do anything to the people from Zoroastrianism. As it turns out, they're avenging a 1,000-year-old enmity. For the past 1,000 years, although the Zoroastrianism has targeted the Seven Absolute sect, we've never killed anyone from the Seven Absolute sect. At this moment, many people from the Zoroastrianism could not help but feel relieved. The people from the Seven Absolutes sect who had entered the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land were still fine. The successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, and the successor of the Blazing Phoenix progeny, the fifth absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, brought great pressure to the high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism. After all, both of them were capable of killing a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The Seven Absolute sect has been in hiding for 100,000 years. Now that they've reappeared, they're really well prepared. That's right. Just a few disciples from the Seven Absolute sect have caused such a huge commotion in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. The 3 female disciples have even entered the top 20 of the Supreme Saint ranking as soon as they appeared in front of everyone. Speaking of the 3 female disciples from the Seven Absolute sect, the most terrifying one is the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. The successor of the Prophet progeny seems very mysterious. The other 5 successors of the Seven Absolutes sect have reported their names, but she only said she's the successor of the Prophet progeny, the last disciple of the Oracle Man. She's so mysterious, and she's a heaven-defying Tao cultivator. The successor of the Prophet progeny in the Seven Absolute sect is not to be trifled with. Similar discussions continued to spread in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. The people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land were fearful of the successor of the Prophet progeny in the Seven Absolutes sect. Naturally, it was mostly because the successor of the Prophet progeny in the Seven Absolute sect was a heaven-defying Tao cultivator. Moreover, she was suspected to be a heaven-defying Tao cultivator at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. It's better to offend the King of Hell than to offend the Prophet progeny. Someone even sent out such a message. Many people in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land agreed with this. The successor of the Prophet progeny was too terrifying. At the same time, apart from the Zoroastrianism, the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect were secretly searching for the members of the Seven Absolute sect. Naturally, the 2 great sects were not searching for the members of the Seven Absolute sect because they wanted to have a cup of tea with them. They wanted to seek revenge and redeem themselves. To the 2 great sects, what the members of the Seven Absolute sect had done to them was a great humiliation. Only the blood of the members of the Seven Absolute sect could wash away the humiliation they had suffered. Initially, the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect wanted to drag the Zoroastrianism down with them. They wanted to join forces with the Zoroastrianism to deal with the members of the Seven Absolutes sect. However, Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, was not stupid. He had directly rejected them. What a joke. Now that the members of the Seven Absolutes sect did not come looking for trouble with the members of the Zoroastrianism, they would be thankful. After all, the current Seven Absolutes sect was no longer the Seven Absolutes sect of the past. If they were not confident they could uproot the Seven Absolutes sect, it was best not to provoke them for the time being. Currently, all 6 of the Seven Absolutes sect have appeared except for the first Absolute, the Fog Rain sect. Soon after, many people discovered this. It's said that in the history of the Tao Martial Saint Land, it's rare for the Seven Absolutes sect to appear in such a high-profile manner. The last time it happened was 100,000 years ago during the era of the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang. I've heard about this as well. I've read about it in an ancient book. The Seven Absolutes sect has a rule that the Seven Absolutes sect can only appear in such a high-profile manner when the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute, appears. If the record is true, it means that the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, has appeared. The successor of the Prophet progeny, the second Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, is already so heaven-defying. How heaven-defying would the successor of the Fog Rain progeny be if he appears? After all, according to the Seven Absolutes sect's tradition, the strongest person in the Seven Absolutes sect is the successor of the Fog Rain progeny. The successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. How exciting! In the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land, people were discussing the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. Naturally, these discussions had spread to the 3 great sects as well. Now that the Seven Absolutes sect has appeared, the first Absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, must have a successor. Moreover, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny from 100,000 years ago is most likely the successor of the prodigy sword saint, Feng Qingyang. In the entire Tao Martial Saint Land, no one knew the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, better than the 3 great sections. Due to this reason, they were more certain than anyone else. It was highly likely that the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, had appeared. Otherwise, the Seven Absolutes sect would not have appeared in such a high-profile manner. Based on the strength of this generation of the Seven Absolutes sect, the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second Absolute, is the strongest. In fact, although the successor of the Prophet progeny was a heaven-defying Tao cultivator, his strength was the weakest among the Seven Absolutes of the Seven Absolutes sect. That's right. During that era, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, Feng Qingyang, was the strongest. The one who was second only to Feng Qingyang was the successor of the Kratos progeny, the third Absolute. No one can see through this generation of the Seven Absolutes sect. Perhaps, even the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, might not be a match for that heaven-defying Tao cultivator, the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second Absolute. It's not impossible. Similar discussions spread among the high-ranking officials of the 3 great sections. However, the people from the 3 great sects did not expect that the successor of the Fog Rain progeny would be the successor of the Fog Rain progeny. In fact, many of them knew the current successor of the Seven Absolutes sect's first Absolute, the Fog Rain progeny. Even if they did not know him, they had heard of him before. Chapter 2253. Naturally, Duan Lingtian, who was in the lower province, was unaware of what had happened in the upper province in the past year. Otherwise, he would definitely know. Back then, when he received Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's inheritance, the meaning of the words Misty Rain successor, Duan Lingtian was currently cultivating in a guest room of an inn in the Human Devil Holy City. The inn belonged to the Crimson Blaze Palace, one of the strongest forces in the Human Devil clan. the 3 palaces, and 6 halls. Therefore, Duan Lingtian did not need to worry about being disturbed when he cultivated here. In the entire human devil clan, no one dared to cause trouble in the inn under the Crimson Blaze Palace. The people from Crimson Blaze Palace did not know about this. The culprit who killed the foster son of Wu Tianjin, the vice palace master of Crimson Blaze Palace, and the direct disciples of several elders of Crimson Blaze Palace, was in the inn under the Crimson Blaze Palace. Otherwise, Duan Lingtian wouldn't have been able to cultivate so peacefully in an inn owned by the Crimson Blaze Palace. It's fine if my innate talent was not good enough in the past, but now that I have a violet innate spiritual root, I can't drag Brother Tian down anymore. While Duan Lingtian was cultivating in seclusion, Kerr was not idle and also began cultivating. Of course, even if she wanted to cultivate in seclusion now, she couldn't. She could only occasionally find time to cultivate. That was because she was not alone. She had a daughter that she needed to take care of. As for Kerr's elder sister, Ru Yin, she had gone into closed-door cultivation the moment she returned. Currently, Ru Yin's innate spiritual root had changed from an indigo innate spiritual root to a dark violet innate spiritual root. This experience was like a dream to her. Therefore, after returning to the inn, she could not wait to go into closed-door cultivation. She wanted to experience her innate spiritual root as soon as possible. Mother, where is father? When Duan Siling woke up, the first thing she did was to look for Duan Lingtian. It was obvious she was very dependent on her father, Duan Lingtian. Good girl. Siling, Daddy is cultivating in seclusion now. He'll be out in a few days. When the time comes, Siling will play with you again. Okay? Kerr said affectionately as she patted Duan Siling's head. All right, Siling will wait for Daddy to come out of seclusion. Mother, Siling wants to cultivate too. Siling wants to fight bad guys with Daddy. Duan Siling's delicate face tensed up slightly when she said this. She waved her fists in the air as she said this. He looked like a little adult. Siling, you're such a good girl. However, if you want to cultivate, you'll have to wait for your father to come out of seclusion. He'll teach you then. All right? Seeing that her daughter was so sensible, a gratified smile appeared on Kerr's face. All right. When Daddy comes out of seclusion, he'll teach me how to cultivate. Upon hearing Kerr's words, Duan Siling did not feel disappointed. Instead, she clapped her hands excitedly. In Duan Siling's opinion, her father was different. After all, her father was more powerful than her mother and aunts. If her father taught her, she would definitely become more powerful in the future. Time continued to pass by. In just a blink of an eye, 20 days had passed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. All of a sudden, a gust of wind blew in Duan Lingtian's room. Gusts of majestic and vast gales extended out from Duan Lingtian, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed. They were like roaring dragons that charged out in all directions, as though they were going to destroy the entire room. However, just as the raging winds approached the walls, doors, and windows, they seemed to be devoured by something and disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Duan Lingtian, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, opened his eyes. His eyes flashed like 2 blazing suns, shooting out 2 dazzling rays of light as if they could illuminate all the darkness in the world. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's aura had undergone a huge change compared to before he went into closed-door cultivation. It was as though he had become ethereal and otherworldly. So this is the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form? Duan Lingtian suddenly opened his mouth and muttered to himself. Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had successfully broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage was also known as the heaven-defying form. Once one broke through to this stage, one would have an endless lifespan. As it turns out, this is how a powerhouse at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage achieves eternal life. In the past, Duan Lingtian only knew that powerhouses at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage and above would have an endless lifespan. However, he did not know how it worked. Now that he had broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, he finally understood why powerhouses at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage and above would have eternal life. This was because, After one's cultivation base had broken through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, the saint veins in one's body would be connected to the tiny meridians in one's body. When Yang Kai circulated his saint qi, the inconspicuous small meridians located all over his body could receive a baptism of saint qi, allowing him to maintain the vitality of his body and achieve immortality. In the past, the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, was a mystery to Duan Lingtian. Now that he had broken through to this level, he was clear about everything and understood everything. After breaking through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, one would have an endless lifespan. The seventh form of the saint celestial stage is known as the heaven-defying form. The heaven-defying form, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. A human who originally had a limited lifespan, after breaking through to a certain level of cultivation, would obtain eternal life and have an endless lifespan. To a certain extent, this was an act that defied the heavens itself. Although my cultivation speed is still slower in the human devil saint city with the help of my dark violet innate spiritual root and the time flow on the fourth level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda, it's still not as fast as before. However, it's not because my innate spiritual root can't catch up with the time flow on the fourth level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. It's because the cultivation environment here is far inferior to the upper province. In fact, ever since Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root had transformed into a dark violet innate spiritual root, his cultivation speed was almost the same as when he had the help of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. At that time, his innate talent was not as good as it was now, but he had the help of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. Comparing his current cultivation speed to his past cultivation speed, even if there was still some difference, it was not that big of a difference. However, since this was the lower province, the cultivation environment here was far inferior to the upper province. For this reason, Duan Lingtian's cultivation speed here was not as good as when he was in the upper province. The cultivation speed was similar only if they were in the same cultivation environment. If there was a huge difference in the cultivation environment, it would naturally be different. Even so, I still managed to break through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly when he thought of this. Now that his cultivation base had broken through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, apart from gaining eternal life, the sun saint origin in his body had also improved. Although his sun saint origin could not compare to the sun saint origin of an ordinary martial cultivator at the same cultivation base, it was still much stronger. However, it was still much stronger than a martial cultivator at the same cultivation base. Breaking through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage has brought me more than just immortality. My current strength has increased by a whole level compared to before I broke through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage. Duan Lingtian felt excited when he thought of this. Now that his strength had improved, he would be able to protect himself and his loved ones in the Debussy subterranean where the devil clans wreaked havoc. How could he not feel excited when he thought of this? It's a pity that Hualao is no longer here. Duan Lingtian thought about Elder Hua, the pagoda spirit of the celestial supreme treasure, the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. He could not help but sigh as a hint of sadness appeared in his eyes. Duan Lingtian had his reasons for thinking about Hualao at this moment. When Hualao was still alive, he had told Duan Lingtian that he would be able to break through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage. When Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had broken through to the seventh form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, he would help Duan Lingtian improve the golden crow's wings to the third form. At that time, the speed he could display after using the golden crow's wings would increase by another level. At that time, the golden crow's wings would shine as a divine ability in the Devata realm. Since Elder Hua is not here, I won't be able to raise my golden crow's wings to the third form. Although my speed is much faster than many movement divine abilities in the Dao Martial Saintland with the help of the second form of the golden crow's wings, it's still not enough. However, there's still a gap between my speed and the most ordinary movement divine abilities in the Devata realm. Duan Lingtian sighed when he thought of this. Since Elder Hua was no longer around, it meant that his movement divine ability, the golden crow's wings, would no longer improve. He could comprehend other divine abilities on his own. However, he could not comprehend the golden crow's wings. The golden crow's wings was Hua Lao's innate divine ability as a three-legged golden crow. The reason Duan Lingtian could master the golden crow's wings was all thanks to the golden crow's wings that Hua Lao had planted on his back. Otherwise, he would not have been able to master the golden crow's wings. After a while, Duan Lingtian regained his senses and shook his head. Let bygones be bygones. Duan Lingtian, you must believe that Hua Lao will be happy for you if he knows you've broken through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, in such a short time. After muttering to himself, Duan Lingtian's gloominess was swept away, and his spirits were lifted. It was as though he had transformed into a different person. Chapter 22:54. He stood up from the bed and opened the door. He had officially come out of closed-door cultivation. Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Duan Lingtian had just opened the door when he heard an excited voice coming from the front. The voice was getting closer and closer. When he took a closer look, he saw his daughter, Duan Xiling, running toward him with her arms wide open when she saw him opening the door. Her delicate little face was filled with excitement. Xiling, Duan Lingtian smiled as he crouched down to catch Duan Xiling, who was running toward him. Then, he carried her in his arms. Duan Xiling was already 10 years old. However, because she had not interacted with many people and had not interacted with people of the same age, her temperament was still as naive and unaffected as before. In front of Duan Lingtian, she was like a little princess. In Duan Lingtian's eyes, she was his little princess, his one and only little princess. Daddy, why do I feel like you're different now? Duan Xiling blinked her big eyes as she studied Duan Lingtian from head to toe. When she spoke, she noticed Duan Lingtian's aura was different from before. Before he entered closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the 6th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, after he entered closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. His temperament and aura had changed as well. Although Duan Xiling had not officially started cultivating, she had a black, profound spirit. However, since Duan Xiling possessed a black innate spiritual root, she had extraordinary senses. Although she did not have a high cultivation base, she could still sense the change in Duan Lingtian's aura. Naturally, she did not know what the change in aura was. All she knew was that her father gave her a different feeling. Daddy is broken through, Duan Lingtian said with a smile as he patted his daughter's head affectionately. Wow, Daddy is so awesome. Duan Xiling's eyes brightened when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. In other words, Daddy, you've broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, and you'll be immortal in the future? Duan Lingtian had told Duan Xiling that his cultivation base was at the 6th form of the Saint Celestial stage. He had also told her about the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form. For this reason, he was not surprised when he heard Duan Xiling's words. He merely smiled and nodded. When Duan Xiling saw Duan Lingtian nodding, her delicate face fell. She looked like a little adult with a troubled expression on her face. What happened? This was the first time Duan Lingtian had seen his daughter like this, and he couldn't help but be stunned. She didn't know why her daughter suddenly became like this. Daddy, Xiling wants to cultivate too. Duan Xiling pouted playfully. Xiling wants to be immortal as well. Otherwise, when I'm old and pass away, it'll be boring for you to be immortal by yourself. Xiling wants to be immortal with you, Daddy. Upon hearing his daughter's words, Duan Lingtian finally understood what was going on. Duan Lingtian smiled and said, Xiling, you can cultivate if you want. However, I'll have to ask for your mother's permission. If she doesn't mind, I'll teach you how to cultivate, all right? Daddy, Mommy has no objections. She asked me to wait for Daddy to come out of closed-door cultivation, so Daddy can teach me how to cultivate. Duan Xiling giggled. You'll have to ask your mommy first. Duan Lingtian said affectionately as he patted Duan Xiling's head. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, a voice rang in the air. Brother Tian, you've come out of closed-door cultivation? A light and pleasant voice that was filled with pleasant surprise sounded from nearby as a beautiful woman walked out of the room adjacent to Duan Ling Tian's room. It was none other than Kerr. Kerr had also come out of her room when she heard the commotion.
Yes.
When Duan Ling Tian saw Kerr, the doting look in his eyes turned gentle. It was as though it could melt anything. "Mommy, Daddy has agreed to teach me how to cultivate." Duan Ling waved at Kerr as she said excitedly to Kerr. Before Kerr could reply, Duan Ling Tian said, "I thought since Ling is already 10 years old, it's fine if she wants to cultivate. However, it's up to you. If you think it's fine, I'll teach her. If you don't think it's fine, we'll wait for another 2 years." Duan Ling was stunned when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. When she regained her senses, tears began to well up in her eyes. "Daddy, what are you talking about? Didn't you promise me earlier?" At this moment, Duan Ling's eyes were brimming with tears. She looked pitiful. "I did promise you earlier, but your mommy has to agree. If your mommy doesn't agree, I won't dare to teach you." Duan Lingtian's heart ached when he saw Duan Ling's expression. He smiled as he patted her head. Kerr was the one who brought up their daughter. He had always felt guilty towards Ku'er, so when it came to his daughter's cultivation, he decided to listen to Ku'er's opinion and not make the decision himself. Naturally, even if Duan Lingtian did not have such a reason, it would not be appropriate for him to make such a decision. After all, their daughter did not belong to him alone. She belonged to both him and Kerr. As their daughter's mother, Kerr had the right to express her opinion. Duan Lingtian did not have the right to deny her this right. "Mommy." Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Duan Ling knew the decision was still in her mother's hands. She looked at her mother again and pouted. "You promised Ling earlier. You can't go back on your word." At this moment, Kerr finally arrived in front of Duan Lingtian and Duan Ling. "Brother Tian, I'll listen to you," Ku'er said to Duan Lingtian. She had the appearance of a woman singing along with her husband. Duan Lingtian's words earlier showed how much he cared for her and how much he respected her. It made her feel warm in her heart. Just like that, the matter was settled. Duan Ling began to cultivate. "Kerr, how long did I spend in closed-door cultivation?" Duan Lingtian looked at Ku'er and asked after he finally remembered the important matter. 20 days. Kerr replied, "Only 20 days?" Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow in surprise. Initially, he thought he would have spent at least 25 days in closed-door cultivation. He did not expect it would only take him 20 days. "Kerr, I'm going out for a while. I'll be back in an hour at most." Duan Lingtian turned to look at Kerr and greeted Kerr after he found out how long he had been in closed-door cultivation. Duan Lingtian comforted his daughter for a while before he handed her over to Kerr. Then, he left the inn that belonged to the Crimson Blaze Palace, one of the 3 palaces and 6 halls in the Human Devil clan. There was only one reason Duan Lingtian wanted to leave. He wanted to test his strength and see how strong he had become. After all, although his cultivation base had broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, he had no idea how much his strength had improved or what it was like. Before he tested his strength, he would not be able to come to a conclusion. After leaving the inn, Duan Lingtian left the Human Devil Saint City. After about 15 minutes, he arrived at an empty desert. Duan Lingtian stood in the air above the desert and extended his divine consciousness. He could not detect any signs of life. In other words, not only was there no one around, but there were also no signs of life. Even the heaven and earth spirit energy was thin. "My son Saint Origin." With just a thought, Duan Lingtian's son Saint Origin surged out of his body through his 99 saint veins. In just a blink of an eye, it surged out of his body and emitted a majestic aura. It was as though the ancient beast that had been lurking in Duan Lingtian's body had awakened. The number of saint veins in one's body directly affected the speed at which one could mobilize energy. The more saint veins one had, the faster one could mobilize energy. It was the same the other way around. However, due to the low level of power in the mundane realms, people in the mundane realms did not rely on saint veins as much as people in the Devata realms. Naturally, the saint veins were not called saint veins in the Devata realms. Instead, they were called heavenly veins. Elementary devouring tactic. After mobilizing the Sun Saint origin in his body, Duan Ling Tian did not remain idle. He immediately cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to devour the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings. After devouring the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings, Duan Ling Tian moved to another location. He had to change locations. Although he could continue to devour the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings, the efficiency would be greatly reduced. If he changed locations, he would be able to devour the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings. Change locations. Continue to devour. Change locations. Continue to devour. After repeating this several times, Duan Ling Tian's Sun Saint origin was raised to its maximum after a dozen breaths of time. However, the Sun Saint origin that had been raised to its limit did not surprise Duan Ling Tian at all. Not only was he not surprised, but he was also slightly disappointed. It's still the same as before. Could this be the bottleneck that Hualao mentioned to me before? Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself with a frown on his face. Currently, the Sun Saint origin in his body that had been raised to its limit was similar to the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, that he had cast before he had broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. It was as though he had encountered a bottleneck that was difficult to break. Hualao said before that powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage will face a bottleneck before they pass the heavenly tribulation. This bottleneck can only be broken after passing the heavenly tribulation. Chapter 22:55. I thought I'd be able to break through the bottleneck with the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. I didn't think I'd be able to break through the bottleneck even after comprehending the elementary devouring tactic to its peak. Duan Ling Tian could not help but sigh after he smiled wryly. The bottleneck meant the Sun Saint origin in his body was only comparable to the Saint origin of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, even with the help of the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. The bottleneck was the limit of the Saint origin of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. If he wanted to break through the Celestial Ascension Tribulation, he would have to overcome the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. Only then would he be able to break through the bottleneck of his Saint origin and improve his strength. According to Hualao, once a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage passes the Celestial Ascension Tribulation, the Saint origin in his body will break through the bottleneck and form the Celestial origin energy. At that time, the Saint origin would still be the same Saint origin as before. However, due to the Celestial origin energy, the Saint origin would be much stronger than before. Hualao said the Celestial origin energy would only be formed after one passes the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. Duan Ling Tian sighed again when he thought about this. In other words, before I pass the Celestial Ascension Tribulation, even if my cultivation base breaks through to the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage or the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the Sun Saint origin in my body won't be able to improve with the elementary devouring tactic. In fact, when my cultivation base breaks through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, I won't even need the help of the elementary devouring tactic to break through the bottleneck. At that time, even if I cast the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, with all my might, the Sun Saint origin in my body wouldn't change at all. At that time, the elementary devouring tactic would no longer be of any help to my strength. It would be useless to me. Naturally, the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, was useless to Duan Ling Tian after he had broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. In other words, the elementary devouring tactic would not be useless. After all, apart from helping Duan Ling Tian improve his Saint Qi, the elementary devouring technique had many other uses. For example, he could devour and raise the grade of his innate spiritual root. However, if I passed the Celestial Ascension Tribulation after breaking through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, even if the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, can't raise the Saint origin in my body, I'll still have Celestial origin energy. Saint origin has reached the limit of the mundane realm, but the Celestial origin energy isn't limited by the mundane realm. With this thought, Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up. The most important thing now is to raise my cultivation base and break through to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage before overcoming the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. Once I've overcome the Celestial Ascension Tribulation, I'll be able to use the elementary devouring tactic to increase my strength again. At that time, my strength will increase tremendously. The disappointment in Duan Lingtian's heart lessened slightly when he thought about this. Although Duan Lingtian was still slightly disappointed, he knew things were already set in stone. There was nothing he could do to change it. Apart from raising my cultivation base, the only thing I can do now is to improve my other techniques. That's the only way I can improve my overall strength in a short time. After all, before I break through to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage and successfully pass the heavenly tribulation, my Sun Saint origin is only SOSO. A hint of determination flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes as he muttered to himself. In the past, I've been too reliant on the elementary devouring tactic. That's why my other techniques have stagnated. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly as he muttered to himself. Whether it was the defensive divine ability, Black Tortoise's armor, the offensive divine ability, otherworldly flying immortal, or even the supreme sword Dao mental cultivation method, Sovereign Heart Sword, they had all been temporarily left behind by him. Duan Lingtian only realized this when he discovered the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, was becoming less and less helpful to him. However, even though my current strength hasn't improved much compared to when I was at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage, I'm not afraid of anyone in the Wandering Saint Palace, one of the 3 palaces and 6 halls in the Human Devil clan, except for the Palace Master of Wandering Saint Palace. Perhaps I can first become a Vice Palace Master. Duan Lingtian did not forget his plan. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian did not linger in the desert. He immediately turned around and returned to the Human Devil Saint City. In less than an hour, Duan Lingtian returned to the inn under the Crimson Blaze Palace in the Human Devil clan's 3 palaces and 6 halls. After returning to the inn, Duan Lingtian, naturally, planned to bring Kerr, his daughter, and Gan Ru Yin to the Wandering Saint Palace in the Human Devil clan's 3 palaces and 6 halls. Sister is still in closed-door cultivation. At this moment, Duan Lingtian learned from Kerr that she had been in closed-door cultivation for quite some time. Gan Ru Yin had been in closed-door cultivation since the last time Duan Lingtian was in closed-door cultivation. She did not show any signs of coming out of closed-door cultivation. Let's wait for her then. Duan Lingtian did not forget his promise to his daughter and began to teach her cultivation. He decided to wait for Gan Ru Yin to come out of closed-door cultivation. During this time, Duan Lingtian realized how terrifying a black innate spiritual root was. Duan Lingtian could not help but click his tongue when he saw his daughter's cultivation base skyrocketing. This is too much. Duan Lingtian looked for Kerr when Duan Sealing's cultivation was on the right track and she no longer needed to stick to him. Duan Lingtian said to Kerr, Sealing should be fine now that she's cultivating on her own. I'm going to make a trip to upgrade my innate spiritual root to a black innate spiritual root. Brother Tian, how long will you be gone? Kerr was more concerned about how long Duan Lingtian would be gone since she did not want to be separated from Duan Lingtian anymore. It shouldn't be too long. After all, my innate spiritual root is only half a step away from becoming a black innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian said as he hugged Kerr and said gently, I'll be back as soon as possible. When Sealing wakes up from her cultivation, please inform her. All right. Kerr nodded with a reluctant expression on her face. Brother Tian, come back early. All right. Duan Lingtian replied before he kissed Kerr's forehead gently. Then, he left the inn in the Human Devil Saint City. After leaving the Human Devil Saint City, Duan Lingtian headed north. This time, his target was not the Human Devil Saint City, but the other clans in the Devil clans. When Duan Lingtian was in the Human Devil Saint City, he learned about the Human Devil Saint City. A few 100,000 miles north of the Human Devil Saint City was the territory occupied by the Boar Devil clan after they arrived at the Debussy Subterranean. It was the base of a fourth-rate force in the Debussy Subterranean. Although the Boar Devil clan was not one of the most powerful clans in the Devil clans, including the Human Devil clan and the Ox Devil clan, it was only second to these few clans. It was one of the more powerful clans in the Devil clans. According to the Human Devils in the restaurant in the Human Devil Saint City, There are three powerhouses at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage in the Boar Devil clan. The three powerhouses at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage are the leaders of the Black Boar tribe, the Thunder Boar tribe, and the Red Boar tribe. They're also the three patriarchs of the Boar Devil clan. Since Duan Lingtian had gone to the restaurant in the Human Devil Saint City, he knew a thing or two about the Boar Devil clan. It's said that the Boar Devils are all humanoid monsters with the head of a pig. Based on this description, they're similar to Zhu Ba Jie, the second senior brother in the legends. As Duan Lingtian's mind raced, he discovered something. He had unknowingly left the Human Devil clan's territory and entered the Boar Devil clan's territory. It's a human devil from the Human Devil clan's territory. When Duan Lingtian discovered he had entered the Boar Devil clan's territory, a loud voice rang from afar. It instantly attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. When Duan Lingtian looked in the direction of the voice, he saw two figures standing in front of him. Both of them had the body of a human. However, their heads were all huge pig heads. They were exactly the same as Zhu Beiji from the ancient myths and legends on Earth in his previous life. The only difference was that they were not as fat as Zhu Bajie. Among the two figures with pig heads, one of them was muscular while the other was skinny. The person who spoke was the skinny one. So these are the Boar Devils? At this moment, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess the identity of these two people. Human Devil Boy, you've crossed the line. This is the territory of the Boar Devil clan. The skinny Boar Devil flew toward Duan Lingtian and arrived in front of Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. He opened his mouth and said to Duan Lingtian. As soon as he opened his mouth, Duan Lingtian could smell a foul stench wafting toward him. Scram! Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold as he raised his hand. His majestic saint origin surged out and engulfed the Boar Devil and the stench coming out of his mouth. After the Boar Devil was engulfed, he was reduced to ashes. All that was left was a spatial ring floating in the air by itself. It's a powerhouse from the Human Devil clan. Chapter 2256. Spare my life, my lord. Spare my life, my lord. The sturdy Boar Devil shuddered when he saw Duan Lingtian looking at him after taking his companion's spatial ring. He immediately fell to his knees and begged with a trembling voice. Apart from the three patriarchs, who has the highest innate talent in the Boar Devil clan? Duan Lingtian asked indifferently as he looked at the Boar Devil who was kneeling on the ground as though nothing had happened after he killed the Boar Devil. Who has the highest innate talent? The Boar Devil who was kneeling on the ground was stunned when he heard Duan Lingtian's question. What? You don't know? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he saw the Boar Devil did not respond. His eyes flashed coldly. At this moment, killing intent surged from Duan Lingtian's body as a terrifying aura swept out and shrouded the Boar Devil. The Boar Devil shuddered when he sensed the terrifying aura. He quickly regained his senses and replied in a flustered manner, My lord, I know. I know. I really know. Speak. Duan Lingtian snorted coldly. Apart from the three patriarchs, the three great guardian warriors have the highest innate talent in the Boar Devil clan. Then, there's the younger generation in the three great guardian warriors. The Boar Devil spoke without any hesitation as though he was afraid Duan Lingtian would treat him the same way he treated his companion. His strength was only on par with his companion. However, the Human Devil powerhouse in front of him had killed his companion with just a wave of his hand. If he was in Duan Lingtian's shoes, he would not be an exception. Because of this, he did not dare to think of running away in front of the Human Devil expert after witnessing his companion's death. He knew there was no way he could run away. The three great guardian warriors? Are they very innate? Duan Lingtian interrupted the Boar Devil before he could finish speaking. Duan Lingtian had heard about the three great guardian warriors in the Boar Devil clan when he was in the Human Devil Saint City. He knew they were famous powerhouses in the Boar Devil clan. The three great guardian warriors were only at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Moreover, they were still quite a distance away from the peak of the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, due to the fact that they were twins, they had a special connection with each other. Due to this reason, they were extremely powerful when they joined forces. Most importantly, they were not ordinary twin brothers. They were triplet twins. There were 3 of them in total. They had the same cultivation base and techniques. When the 3 of them joined forces, the strength they could display was even more terrifying than the combined strength of 2 pairs of twin brothers. When the 3 great guardian warriors joined forces, their strength was second only to the 3 patriarchs in the Boar-Devil clan. They were the leaders of the 3 strongest tribes in the Boar-Devil clan. In the Boar-Devil clan, the 3 great guardian warriors were widely acknowledged as invincible among those below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even Xing Yuanba, the Vice Palace Master of Great Spirit Palace, who was widely acknowledged as the strongest person below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, had been defeated by the 3 great guardian warriors in the Boar-Devil clan.
Yes.
Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's question, the muscular Boar-Devil who was kneeling on the ground did not dare to hesitate. He quickly replied, "They're even more outstanding than the younger generation in our Boar-Devil clan. They're the most outstanding prodigies among the younger generation in the Boar-Devil clan." The younger generation? They're considered the younger generation in the Boar-Devil clan? Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised. Previously, he had only heard that the 3 great guardian warriors in the Boar-Devil clan were very powerful. However, he had no idea how old they were. Now that Duan Lingtian had returned to the WCI subterranean for some time, he roughly knew how the younger generation was defined in the Devil clans. Generally speaking, 8 or 9 out of 10 of the younger generation of the demon race were not more than 100 years old.
Yes.
The Boar-Devil nodded in response to Duan Lingtian's question. The 3 great guardian warriors are young. They're only in their 50s. Only in their 50s. They're so young. Duan Lingtian was shocked by the Boar-Devil's words. They were only in their 50s, but their cultivation base was at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Even if they continuously devoured other people's vital energy and blood to raise their cultivation base, it was impossible for them to raise their cultivation base in such a short time if they were not extremely talented. Their innate spiritual roots. They should all be indigo innate spiritual roots, and they shouldn't just be light indigo innate spiritual roots. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but speculate. Of course, at most, it's a dark blue innate spiritual root. However, the possibility of this is not high. When he was in the Human Devil Saint City, Duan Lingtian had tried to learn more about the innate spiritual roots of the devils. In the history of the Devil clans, there were only a few peerless geniuses with purple innate spiritual roots. Moreover, they were all human devils with pure human bloodline. In other words, apart from the Human Devil clan, there had never been a peerless genius with a violet innate spiritual root in the Devil clans. Because of this, in Duan Lingtian's impression, a dark blue spirit root was already the limit of a demon's innate talent. For this reason, although Duan Lingtian was certain the 3 great guardian warriors from the Boar-Devil clan possessed blue innate spiritual roots, he did not think they possessed dark blue innate spiritual roots. He thought they only possessed normal blue innate spiritual roots. Nevertheless, Duan Lingtian was still pleasantly surprised. These 3 people, even if they only possess light indigo innate spiritual roots, I'm 100% confident my innate spiritual root will transform into a black innate spiritual root after I devour their innate spiritual roots. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, his emotions surged again. At this moment, he could already see his innate spiritual root transforming into a black innate spiritual root. It's them then. Duan Lingtian had his eyes on the 3 great guardian warriors from the Boar-Devil clan. To be more precise, he had his eyes on the 3 great guardian warriors' innate spiritual roots. Which tribe are the 3 Vajras of your Boar Demon clan from? The Black Boar tribe? The Thunder Boar tribe? Or the Red Boar tribe? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he looked at the muscular Boar-Devil kneeling on the ground. If the 3 great guardian warriors belonged to one of the 3 tribes, it would be difficult for him to kill them. This was because each of the 3 tribes had a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. With his current strength, he was confident he could kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage with the help of the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet. However, he was not 100% confident he could kill a devil powerhouse. He could only use the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, After he cast the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to raise his Sun Saint origin to the level of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Otherwise, he was not confident he could kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Up until now, he had not come into contact with many powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Only Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, and Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism. Tang Xian had displayed the strength of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage during his battle with Lang Qianjin. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel chills running up his spine when he thought about it. A powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage was too strong. Duan Lingtian knew Tang Xian and Lang Qianjin were not weak at all. Both Tang Xian and Lang Qianjin were not the strongest powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage below the imminent Celestial stage. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was still wary of a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, even though he had the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet. Although I can use the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, to raise the Sun Saint origin in my body to the level of a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage in just a blink of an eye, however, even with the Sun Saint origin that's comparable to a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage and the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, I'm not confident I can kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. In fact, even if I can raise my Sun Saint origin to the level of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage with the elementary devouring tactic, I'm not 100% confident I can kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. After all, the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet in my hand, is not complete. I believe the complete Devil Seal Tablet would be able to kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, I'm not 100% sure if the missing Devil Seal Tablet would be able to kill a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. For these reasons, Duan Lingtian did not dare to take the risk of killing a devil powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Otherwise, he could have raised his Sun Saint origin to the level of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage before he killed the 3 great guardian warriors from the Devil clan. At that time, even if one of the patriarchs at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage arrived in time, he would be able to kill the 3 great guardian warriors from the Devil clan. He would be able to use his Sun Saint origin to activate the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal Tablet, to kill the 3 great guardian warriors from the Devil clan. They don't belong to any tribe. At this moment, the Boar Devil who was kneeling on the ground said, to a certain extent, they're considered sectless cultivators in the Boar Devil clan. The Boar Devil who was kneeling on the ground said, sectless cultivators? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard the Boar Devil's words. Chapter 22:57. Duan Lingtian had asked who had the highest innate talent in the Boar Devil clan because he wanted to devour a high-grade innate spiritual root to obtain a black innate spiritual root. This would save him a lot of time. If he devoured a low-grade innate spiritual root from an ordinary Boar Devil, his innate spiritual root would transform into a black innate spiritual root. However, it would take a long time for him to do so. Duan Lingtian did not want to waste too much time. Kerr did not want to be separated from him for too long, and the same went for him. Duan Lingtian only wanted to finish this as soon as possible, so he could return to be with Kerr. The 3 great guardian warriors all possess indigo innate spiritual roots and are sectless cultivators. Duan Lingtian's eyes brightened when he learned about the Boar Devil clan's 3 great guardian warriors from the kneeling Boar Devil. His breathing quickened as well. What did it mean for the 3 great guardian warriors to be considered as sectless cultivators in the Boar Devil clan? It meant they were not in the 3 most powerful tribes in the Boar Devil clan. They were most likely not in the vicinity of the 3 powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The territory of the Boar Devil clan is neither big nor small. Do you know where the 3 great guardian warriors are? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he looked at the Boar Devil kneeling in the air. My lord, will you let me go if I tell you where they are? The Boar Devil did not reply to Duan Lingtian immediately. Instead, He looked at Duan Lingtian with a hopeful expression on his face. It was as though he had found a straw to clutch at. What? Are you trying to negotiate with me? Duan Lingtian sneered as he looked at the boar devil. Or do you think you're the only one who knows where the three great guardian warriors are? As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, killing intent surged out of his body and shrouded the boar devil. The killing intent that surged out of Duan Lingtian's body frightened the boar devil so much that he hastily shook his head. My lord, that's not what I meant. I really didn't mean that. I'll bring you to the cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors. I'll bring you there immediately. The boar devil looked at Duan Lingtian anxiously. He was afraid Duan Lingtian would attack him. Most boar devils knew where the cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors was. Therefore, he really couldn't use this to threaten the human powerhouse in front of him. Lead the way. Duan Lingtian grunted coldly. The boar devil hastily rose to his feet and led Duan Lingtian to the place where the three great guardian warriors were cultivating. The cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors was far away from the gathering place of the boar devil clan. Due to this reason, they did not encounter any other boar devils along the way. My lord, the cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors is just ahead. We'll arrive after we cross the mountain in front. The boar devil who was leading the way turned to tell Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently. The cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors was far away from the gathering place of the boar devil clan. This was exactly what he wanted. He was worried the cultivation place of the three great guardian warriors was not far away from the gathering place of the boar devil clan. After all, if any of the three patriarchs of the boar devil clan interfered, he might not be able to devour the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors. Soon after, Duan Lingtian followed the boar devil and crossed the mountain in front of them. Duan Lingtian suddenly frowned as though he had sensed something. He immediately looked down at the mountain range beneath his feet. Whoosh, whoosh. Almost at the same time when Duan Lingtian lowered his head to look, two whistling sounds resonated in the continuous mountain range. Following that, two figures appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. They were none other than two boar devils. One of the boar devils was plump and had a big belly. He resembled Zhu Beiji, the second senior brother of Duan Lingtian from the ancient legends on Earth. The other one was well-built. Although he also had a pig's head, his facial features were more delicate. He could be considered as a rare good-looking man in the boar devil clan. Stongjia, how dare you bring a human devil into the territory of the boar devil clan? How dare you? The plump boar devil who resembled Zhu Beiji moved like a ball and rolled toward Duan Lingtian and the muscular boar devil named Xiong who was leading the way for Duan Lingtian. A hint of schadenfreude could be heard in his voice. My lord, this is one of my enemies. I didn't expect him to be here. Xiong the boar devil who was leading the way for Duan Lingtian, said with a wry smile as he looked at Duan Lingtian with a grim expression on his face. Even as he smiled bitterly, a gleam of schadenfreude flashed in the depths of his eyes. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was a fool. That blind guy is dead for sure. Humph. Duan Lingtian, naturally, noticed the gloating look in Xiongjia's eyes. He could guess what Xiongjia was thinking. However, after a scoff, he made his move. Boom, 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 boom. Duan Lingtian did not seem to have done anything, but a vast energy surged out of his body. It was as though a ferocious beast had opened its mouth and pounced toward the plump boar devil. The plump boar devil did not even have time to react before he was devoured by the energy surging out of Duan Lingtian's body. Not a single trace of him was left behind. All that was left was a spatial ring that fell from the sky. Whoosh! As soon as the spatial ring fell, Xiong flew out and retrieved it before he respectfully handed it to Duan Lingtian. My lord! After taking the spatial ring, Duan Lingtian shifted his gaze to the muscular boar devil. My lord, he's that fellow's companion, so we can't let him live. Otherwise, news of your arrival will spread in the boar devil clan. Xiong said to Duan Lingtian. The gloating glint in the depths of his eyes grew even denser. The remaining boar devil was also his nemesis. Run! The muscular boar devil shuddered when he heard Xiong's words. He regained his senses, and tried to flee immediately. What a joke. Since this human devil could easily kill his companion, it was only natural that he could easily kill him as well. After all, his strength was only on par with his companion. When his companion was killed, he was so terrified that he could not even muster the will to fight back. Swoosh! The sound of sword whistling in the air rang in the air. Duan Lingtian had casually pointed his finger at the boar devil. The boar devil who was about to flee did not even have time to take a step before the sword ray that shot out from Duan Lingtian's finger pierced through the space between his brows. Die! In just a blink of an eye, the two boar devils were killed by Duan Lingtian. Although the muscular boar devil named Xiong Jie knew Duan Lingtian was strong, he could not help but shudder when he saw how easily Duan Lingtian had killed two boar devils whose strength was on par with his. However, when he regained his senses, he quickly took the spatial ring from the muscular boar devil's hand and handed it to Duan Lingtian respectfully. Then, without waiting for Duan Lingtian's reply, he continued to lead the way obediently. At the same time, he was delighted when he thought about how Duan Lingtian had killed his two nemesis. Without his two nemesis, he would be able to live comfortably in the future. My lord, we're here. As soon as Xiong Jie's voice rang in the air, a vast valley appeared in front of Duan Lingtian's eyes. On the other side of this vast valley, there were 3 simple wooden huts standing on the mountainside. With just a thought, Duan Lingtian extended his divine consciousness toward the 3 wooden houses. Who's there? In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian felt 3 divine consciousnesses that were stronger than his own charging toward his divine consciousness. However, Duan Lingtian seemed to be prepared for this. The moment the 3 powerful divine senses collided with him, his divine sense quickly retreated, returning to his soul in the blink of an eye. The divine consciousness was dependent on the soul. The level of one's soul was directly related to one's cultivation base. Currently, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. His soul and divine consciousness were at the same level as well. The divine consciousness that was stronger than his had to be from a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage or higher. The 3 great guardian warriors. Duan Lingtian was certain this was the cultivation place of the 3 great guardian warriors. The boar devil who led the way had not lied to him. Boom, boom, boom. Almost as soon as the thought left Duan Lingtian's mind, the 3 wooden houses on the other side of the mountain on the other side of the valley exploded in unison. 3 figures that looked like devil gods appeared out of thin air. In just a blink of an eye, the 3 figures appeared in the sky near Duan Lingtian. They hovered in the air and stared at Duan Lingtian fiercely. They were none other than the 3 boar devils who looked identical. The 3 boar devils were very tall. They were at least 2 meters tall, and their devil chi was so strong that they looked like 3 devil gods. These 3 boar devils were the 3 great guardian warriors of the boar devil clan. A human devil? The expressions of the 3 great guardian warriors from the boar devil clan darkened when they saw Duan Lingtian's appearance. You've got guts. How dare you bring a human devil into the boar devil clan's territory? When the boar devil Xiong Jie's expression changed drastically when he saw the 3 great guardian warriors, one of the 3 great guardian warriors suddenly shouted. In just a blink of an eye, devil chi surged out of his body and transformed into a gigantic palm that slammed down on Xiong Jie. Boom! The giant palm tore through the air and swept down like a huge mountain crashing down, its momentum vast and mighty. Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow, but he did not stop it. Chapter 2258. Xiong Suk, the boar devil, was overjoyed when he learned that his 2 rivals had been killed by Duan Lingtian. He felt that he would be able to live a better life in the future. However, he did not expect that Duan Lingtian would be killed so easily. He did not even have the chance to live a better life before he was killed. Moreover, he was killed by a fellow boar devil. When one of the 3 great guardian warriors from the boar devil clan attacked Xiong Suk, Duan Lingtian was in time to stop him. However, he did not do so. Even if the 3 great guardian warriors did not kill Xiong Suk, he did not plan to let him go. Since Xiong Suk had used him to kill the 2 boar devils, he was also using Xiong Suk to find the 3 great guardian warriors. The Boar Devil clan had killed countless humans. He would not show any mercy to such a clan of devils. Brat, as a human devil, how dare you come to the Boar Devil clan's territory? It seems like you're tired of living. One of the three great guardian warriors from the Boar Devil clan, the Boar Devil who had just killed Xiong Suk, said coldly as he glared at Duan Lingtian. Tired of living? Duan Lingtian could not help but laugh when he heard the Boar Devil's words. Without waiting for the Boar Devil's reply, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold as a sneer appeared on his face. The reason I came to the Boar Devil clan's territory is because of the three great guardian warriors. Now, all of you can accompany that Boar Devil in hell. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, a whirlpool appeared in the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A whirlpool appeared out of thin air. It spun continuously as though it was going to devour heaven and earth. When the whirlpool merged with Duan Lingtian, it began to devour the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian's son Saint Origin had risen to the level of a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Moreover, it continued to rise, albeit at a slower pace. Shameless boasting! At the same time, the three great guardian deities roared furiously in unison as well. At the same time, they all came back to their senses. Golden crow's wings. Under the watchful eyes of the three Boar Devils, who had just come back to their senses, Duan Lingtian cast the golden crow's wings, and a pair of flaming wings appeared on his back. As soon as the wings appeared, they began to flap violently. Immediately, boom, 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 boom. Accompanied by the deafening sound of air exploding, Duan Lingtian had already left his original spot under the push of the golden crow's wings and arrived at another place. And the surroundings of the place where he arrived were rich in heaven and earth spirit chi for him to freely devour. Elementary devouring technique. In the blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian had devoured all the surrounding spiritual energy. He's using an assist-type divine ability to absorb world energy to enhance his Saint Chi. At this moment, one of the three great guardian deities of the Boar Demon clan was the first to notice something was amiss, and he let out an urgent roar. Immediately, the other two of the three great guardian deities came back to their senses. As powerhouses at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage, they were extremely sensitive to the heaven and earth spirit chi. They could clearly see that the surrounding heaven and earth spirit chi had become very thin. It was as though the heaven and earth spirit chi was being sucked dry. Kill him! The three great guardian deities roared at the same time. As twins, they had a tacit understanding with each other. As soon as they finished speaking, they charged toward Duan Lingtian in unison. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The three great guardian deities were extremely fast. They moved in unison like three streaks of lightning as they charged toward Duan Lingtian. Although the three great guardian deities were fast, they were only as fast as Duan Lingtian. Even if they cast their divine abilities, their movement techniques, and their soaring devil chi, they still could not outrun Duan Lingtian in terms of speed. After all, Duan Lingtian had changed a few places to absorb the heaven and earth spirit chi. Although his Saint Origin was not as strong as a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, it was not far from it. Elementary devouring tactic. After devouring the heaven and earth spirit chi in one place, Duan Lingtian moved to another place. Elementary devouring tactic. He moved to another place. Elementary devouring tactic. He moved to another place. This is bad. His Saint Origin is still increasing. One of the three great guardian warriors from the Boar Devil clan cried out in alarm when he saw Duan Lingtian's son, Saint Origin, was getting stronger and stronger. A hint of dread could be heard in his voice when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Swoosh, swoosh. The other two great guardian deities were horrified as well when they discovered Duan Lingtian's Saint Origin was increasing in speed. At this moment, the three great guardian deities realized something was amiss. At this moment, finally, after some effort, Duan Lingtian finally managed to raise his son Saint Origin to the level of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. He could not help but feel excited. At this moment, his son Saint Origin had completely surpassed the Saint Origin of the three great guardian deities. I've long heard that the three great guardian deities from the Boar Devil clan are almost invincible against cultivators below the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage when they join forces. Now that his son Saint Origin was comparable to the Saint Origin of a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. He immediately turned around and shouted as he charged toward the three great guardian deities who were still chasing after him. Golden Crow's Wings. Currently, Duan Lingtian's son Saint Origin was comparable to the Saint Origin of a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage when he cast the divine ability, the Golden Crow's Wings. His speed was, naturally, twice as fast as the three great guardian deities. Ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. The three great guardian deities' expressions changed drastically when they saw Duan Lingtian charging toward them. At this moment, based on the Human Devil Powerhouse's speed and the surging Saint Origin, they could tell the Human Devil Powerhouse's Saint Origin was at the ninth form of the Saint Origin. The Human Devil Powerhouse's Saint Origin had risen to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. Moreover, his speed had risen to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. They could not compare to him at all. Defend with all your might. We'll deal with him after the effect of his assist-type divine ability wears off. At the same time, the three great guardian deities came to a halt. They stood back to back and faced different directions. As soon as the three of them formed a group, the demon chi in their bodies merged together. The demon chi in their bodies fused together perfectly, mixing with the three perfectly fused Saint Chi and forming a solid black light shield that enveloped the three of them. Upon closer inspection, one could clearly see that there were black lightning bolts everywhere. Bolts of black lightning could be seen swirling around the black light shield. Every time a bolt of lightning flashed, it was filled with waves of demonic chi and emitted a terrifying aura. At the critical moment, the three guardian deities chose to join forces to defend. Since they were twins, they were able to perfectly fuse their defensive martial tactics and defensive divine abilities together to cast a defensive technique that could withstand the attacks of a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage for a period of time. Unless it was a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage who was close to passing the heavenly tribulation. Otherwise, it would be impossible for an ordinary powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage to breach their defenses in such a short time. In their opinion, although the Human Devil Powerhouse's strength was comparable to a powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, it was all thanks to his assist-type divine ability. As long as the support God Art's effect was over, he would return to his original state. At that time, he would be at their mercy again. I can't believe this human devil has mastered such a powerful assist-type divine ability. He's actually able to raise his Saint Origin to the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. The three guardian warriors, who were very confident in their defenses, couldn't help but sigh. Humph. As long as we survive this wave of attacks, when the effect of his support God Art wears off, won't he be a fish on the chopping board for us to slaughter? His current strength is comparable to an ordinary powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage at most. It's impossible for him to breach our defenses in such a short time. The three great guardian deities were very confident in their combined defensive techniques. Interesting. Duan Lingtian, who was charging toward the three guardian warriors, raised an eyebrow when he saw their defenses. He raised his hand and took out his 1,000 inscriptions Saint Sword. Otherworldly celestial. Sword-wielding art. In the next moment, he unleashed the strongest attack that he could unleash at the moment. He cast his offensive divine ability, the otherworldly celestial, and the third stage of the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. At this moment, Duan Lingtian also conjured a few clones. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The main body of the 1,000 inscriptions sacred sword and its doppelganger were filled with Sun Saint Origin as they flew towards the three great Vajras in formation. Several thousand inscriptions Saint swords pierced through the air, emitting a series of sword whistles that lasted only for a brief moment. The sword rays flashed and whistled through the air as if they could pierce through everything. How fast! How powerful! At the same time, the three great guardian warriors from the Boar Devil clan discovered how terrifying Duan Lingtian's attack was. In their eyes, The streaks of sword light were like the fleeting appearance of a swan. Finally, the main body of the Thousand Inscriptions Saint Sword and the clones collided with the three Guardian Warriors' defenses. Boom, 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 boom. However, along with a series of earth-shattering noises, rang out. Duan Ling Tian's attacks landed on the defensive light shield cast by the three great Guardian Warriors, causing ripples to form on the shield. Chapter 2259. Although Duan Ling Tian's attacks were swift and ferocious, it was difficult for him to break through the defensive technique cast by the three great Guardian Warriors of the Boar Devil clan. As expected, Duan Ling Tian sighed inwardly when he saw this. In fact, he had expected this to happen. However, he could not help but sigh when it turned out to be true. Currently, he was attacking with all his might. Alas, he was still unable to break through the defenses of the three great Guardian Warriors. Although my son's Saint Origin has reached the critical point of the Saint Origin of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, I can't unleash the full strength of my Saint Origin since I'm not a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. In fact, he had already noticed this when he tried to raise his son's Saint Origin to the level of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Although he had raised his Saint Origin to that level, he could not unleash the full strength of his Saint Origin. When a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage broke through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, not only would his Saint Origin improve, but his comprehension of heaven and earth would also improve. It sounded extremely mysterious, but it wasn't completely without reason. The 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage was also known as the Celestial Ascension form. Some people might think that the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage was called the Celestial Ascension form because powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage had to undergo the Celestial Ascension tribulation. However, this was a huge mistake. Although the Celestial Ascension tribulation was one of the reasons the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage was called the Celestial Ascension form, it was not the only reason. There was a process for powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage to trigger the Celestial Ascension tribulation. This process was based on one's comprehension of heaven and earth. Only when one's comprehension of heaven and earth had reached a certain level would one be able to trigger the Celestial Ascension tribulation. Otherwise, even if one's Saint Origin had reached the critical point, one would not be able to trigger the Celestial Ascension tribulation. If he could not attract the Celestial Ascension tribulation, he would not be able to pass the tribulation, let alone become an eminent celestial. In the process of comprehending heaven and earth, powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage would be able to use their Saint Origin with ease. This was the use of Saint Chi that transcended martial arts and divine abilities. It was also because of this. The strength of the Saint Origin cast by a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage and Duan Ling Tian, who was a martial cultivator at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, were on a completely different level. During the battle between Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, and Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism, Tang Xian's Saint Origin definitely didn't reach the critical point, and his martial arts moves and divine abilities won't be stronger than mine. However, even so, the strength he displayed at that time was far superior to my full strength attack. The reason why this happened is because he has become more and more proficient in using his Saint Chi through perceiving this world, allowing him to control his own Saint Chi like an extension of his own body, far surpassing my current level. Duan Ling Tian had personally witnessed the battle between Tang Xian, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, and Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism. That battle was still vivid in his mind. For this reason, he could clearly see the difference in strength between him and Tang Xian and Lang Qianjin. If my cultivation base was at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage instead of the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, I would have been able to slightly comprehend heaven and earth. The force of my earlier attack wouldn't have merely caused a small ripple in their defenses. Duan Ling Tian sighed inwardly as he looked at the defensive light shield around the three great guardian warriors. Only powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage would be able to comprehend heaven and earth. For this reason, No matter how much Duan Lingtian sighed, it did not change the fact that he was unable to comprehend heaven and earth. Boy from the human devil clan, go ahead and use your assist-type divine ability while it's still in effect. Otherwise, you might not be able to withstand a single attack from the three of us once the effect of your assist-type divine ability wears off. One of the three great guardian warriors said mockingly as he looked at Duan Lingtian. I didn't expect the human devil clan to have someone like you. Even Xing Yuan Ba, the strongest person below the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage in the human devil clan, is no match for you. Unfortunately, even if you're stronger than Xing Yuan Ba, you're going to die here today. The other two great guardian warriors looked at Duan Lingtian mockingly as well. Due to Duan Lingtian's earlier attack, the defensive light shield that was shrouded in devil chi had dimmed slightly, but it was not as obvious as before. It was obvious the defensive light shield did not deplete much of its energy after withstanding Duan Lingtian's attack. Upon hearing the three great guardian warriors' words, Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow as he narrowed his eyes. In an instant, a cold glint flashed across his narrowed eyes. It seems like all of you think you can defeat me? Duan Lingtian said calmly as soon as he opened his eyes. It was as though he was not affected by the three great guardian warriors' words at all. Nothing could be more calm than this. HM? To a certain extent, Duan Lingtian's calmness had shocked the three great guardian warriors as well. However, they were only taken aback for a moment before the sneer on their faces deepened. You're just bluffing. Do you think we'll be afraid of you just because of this? Ridiculous. When the three great guardian warriors spoke again, their voices were filled with disdain. Your wishful thinking is pretty good, Liao said with a smile. Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged in the face of the three great guardian warriors' disdain and ridicule. His tone was still very calm. If I continue to attack with all my strength, I might be able to break through your defense after a while. However, by that time, the effect of my assist-type divine ability would have worn off. My saint origin would have been reduced to its original state. Duan Lingtian's words destroyed the three great guardian warriors' thoughts. However, have you thought about this? If I escape with my current saint origin, will you be able to catch up with me? Duan Lingtian continued to ask in a mocking tone. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the three great guardian warriors were stunned for a moment before their expressions darkened. As twins, the three of them worked together. Their strongest technique was their defensive technique, followed by their offensive technique. Their only weakness was their speed. If Duan Lingtian really wanted to escape now, he could easily escape with his life. They would not be able to use their strength at all. Cowards. Sure enough, human devils are all cowards. Human devil brat, you're really a disgrace to the human devil clan. How dare you try to escape? Coward. After Duan Lingtian's reminder, the three great guardian warriors became anxious. They began to mock Duan Lingtian. They wanted to provoke Duan Lingtian so he would lose his mind and stay behind. Only then would they have a chance to kill the human devil brat. If the human devil brat escaped, they could only watch from the sidelines. There was nothing they could do. How could Duan Lingtian not see through the three great guardian warriors' little tricks? The three of you don't have to provoke me. Although I can escape now, I won't. It's because the three of you aren't qualified to make me escape. When Duan Lingtian finished speaking, his words were as clear as day. The three great guardian warriors were also stunned by Duan Lingtian's sudden outburst. They did not know where Duan Lingtian got his confidence from to actually dare to say such a thing. I have to say, the defensive technique the three of you cast when you join forces is very strong. It's so strong that even an ordinary powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage might not be able to break through it in a short time. Before the three great guardian warriors could regain their senses, Duan Lingtian continued to speak before the three great guardian warriors could react. Unfortunately, all of you met me today. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he raised his hand and a stone tablet with a chipped corner appeared in his hand. When the stone tablet first appeared, it looked simple and unadorned. Apart from the ancient and complicated words carved on it, there was nothing eye-catching about it. All of a sudden, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Along with the soft sound, The stone tablet with a chipped corner in Duan Ling Tian's hand suddenly emitted a vast and majestic devil chi. Demonic chi soared into the sky, as if it could break through the dome of heaven. All of this was caused by Duan Ling Tian activating the Sun Saint chi in his body and fusing it into the stone tablet. I didn't expect the Devil Seal tablet would react so strongly when I infused it with the Sun Saint origin that's comparable to the Saint origin of a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Based on the Devil Seal tablet's reaction, it shouldn't be a problem for it to break through the defenses of the 3 great guardian warriors. At first, Duan Lingtian was shocked by the stone tablet's reaction. However, a moment later, he came back to his senses and revealed a smile. Demonic chi surged from the Devil Seal tombstone as if it could support the heavens and the earth. If one took a closer look, they would be able to see that, within the demonic chi that soared into the sky, there were bolts of purple lightning that flashed like purple divine dragons. The purple lightning bolts were surrounded by an even more profound devil chi that emitted an ancient and vicissitude aura. It was as though the lightning bolts had an extraordinary origin. The stone tablet with a chipped corner in Duan Lingtian's hand was none other than the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal tablet, that had not appeared in a long time. The 3 great guardian warriors from the Boar Devil clan noticed the devil chi surging from the Devil Seal tablet. The disdain on their faces disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. The stone tablet in the human devil's hand gave them a sense of oppression that came from the bottom of their hearts and souls. Chapter 2260. All of a sudden, whoosh! A deafening sound rang in the air. The Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal tablet, flew out of Duan Lingtian's hand. It hovered in the air as the devil chi surged. The purple lightning that connected heaven and earth became even more terrifying. Even Duan Lingtian himself did not expect this to happen. For a moment, he was so shocked that he could not help but be stunned. At that moment, a gentle energy surged out of the Devil Seal tablet and pushed his hand away without hurting it. The Devil Seal tablet had also regained its freedom at that moment. The Devil Seal tablet that had regained its freedom hovered in the air. The devil chi that rose from it became even more majestic and majestic. From afar, it looked like a pillar that was burning with black flames. In just a blink of an eye, a change occurred. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Accompanied by waves of ghost-like wails and wolf-like howls, the soaring demonic aura that seemed to connect the heavens and the earth suddenly gathered and squeezed together. Finally, it descended from the sky and entered the demon sealing tablet. In just a blink of an eye, the devil chi on the Devil Seal tablet surged. Rolling shockwaves swept out in all directions with the Devil Seal tablet as the center. Boom, 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 boom. The shockwaves caused by the surging devil chi on the Devil Seal tablet set off a series of thunderous explosions. At the same time, it stirred up a violent wind that seemed to be able to sweep away everything in its path. At the same time, the 3 great guardian warriors of the Boar Devil clan who were protected by the defensive light shield could clearly sense the strange aura. The aura from the tablet with a missing corner that was hovering in front of the human devil boy was so strong that it caused their souls to tremble. It was as though they would not be able to escape from the aura even if they fled to the ends of the world. This is the Devil Seal tablet? At this moment, no matter how slow the 3 great guardian warriors were, they could guess what the tablet with a missing corner that caused their souls to tremble was. It was none other than the Super Saint weapon, the Devil Seal tablet, which was used to restrain the Devil clan. When the expressions of the 3 great guardian warriors changed drastically, the demonic chi on the Devil Seal tombstone surged as it shot out with a terrifying momentum. Wherever it passed, the void trembled as if it could collapse at any moment. Boom! In the next moment, before the 3 guardian deities could react, the Devil Seal tombstone had already smashed into the defensive light shield around them. The defensive light barrier was the most powerful technique that the 3 great guardian warriors could cast. It could even withstand the full-powered attack of an ordinary powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage for a period of time. Even though Duan Lingtian had used all his strength just now, he had only managed to create a small ripple on the surface. And now, boom, 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 boom. After the Devil Seal tombstone smashed into the defensive light barrier, a series of crisp sounds rang out. It was as if the tombstone wouldn't stop. During this process, the defensive light shield that the three King Kongs of the Boar Demon clan relied on to survive was as vulnerable as a clay chicken or a pottery dog. The defensive technique that the three great guardian warriors cast was like a joke in front of the Devil Seal tombstone. No, no, no. Seeing how the Devil Seal tombstone easily destroyed their defensive means, the pupils of the three great guardian deities constricted. Their expressions changed drastically, and they could not help but let out waves of extremely anxious low roars. Run. The same thought appeared in the three great guardian warriors' minds at the same time. At this time, other than this thought, they couldn't think of anything else. They didn't even have the time to figure out why this human devil brat had the Devil Seal tablet. They didn't even have the time to figure out why this human devil brat could use it. After all, the Devil Seal tombstone was the bane of the devil clans and devil cultivators. They would only suffer backlash if they used the Devil Seal tombstone. Trying to escape? The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled up into a sneer when he saw the three great guardian warriors trying to flee in different directions. How could three mere devils at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage escape from the Devil Seal tombstone? The outcome was just as Duan Ling Tian had expected. Boom, 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 boom. Another series of explosions rang in the air. The Devil Seal tombstone had destroyed the three great guardian warriors before they could even make a move. After the Devil Seal tombstone was in its hands, the devil chi around it vanished and returned to its original appearance. It looked harmless. On the other hand, the three great guardian warriors from the Boar Devil clan were lifeless, as though they had lost their souls. Indeed, they had lost their souls. Their souls had been suppressed by the Devil Seal tombstone. As for whether they were sealed within the Devil Seal tombstone or destroyed, only the Devil Seal tombstone knew. Swoosh! Duan Ling Tian made his way to the corpses of the three great guardian warriors. After collecting their spatial rings, he began to devour their innate spiritual roots. Although innate spiritual roots were dependent on one's soul, the Devil Seal tombstone had only targeted the three great guardian warriors' souls and did not touch their innate spiritual roots. For this reason, it did not affect Duan Lingtian's ability to devour their innate spiritual roots. As expected, their innate spiritual roots are blue. When Duan Ling Tian devoured the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors, he discovered the three great guardian warriors possessed indigo innate spiritual roots. Moreover, their innate spiritual roots were blue. Their innate spiritual roots are enough to help my innate spiritual root break through to the next grade. The moment Duan Ling Tian thought of this, his emotions surged again. After a while, Duan Ling Tian calmed down and began to devour the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors. Duan Ling Tian was very familiar with the process of devouring the innate spiritual roots. Therefore, he did not encounter any problems and everything went smoothly. Now is the time. When the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors merged with his innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. His breathing seemed to have stopped at this moment. At the same time, the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors merged with Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root had already reached the critical point. It was only half a step away from transforming into a black innate spiritual root. Now that the innate spiritual roots of the three great guardian warriors had merged with Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root, it instantly helped Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root to cross the final step and transform successfully. Black innate spiritual root. At the same time, Duan Lingtian discovered that his innate spiritual root had transformed into a black innate spiritual root. His innate spiritual root had completely transformed into a black innate spiritual root. Ha 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 ha! Duan Lingtian was in a good mood when he saw his innate spiritual root had finally transformed into the highest grade, the black innate spiritual root. He could not help but laugh out loud. His laughter was unrestrained and carefree. I wonder how much faster my cultivation speed is now after my innate spiritual root has transformed into a black innate spiritual root. while Duan Lingtian was trying to sense and absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings, something happened. Before he could sense and absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in his surroundings, another accident occurred. Boom, 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 boom. Before Duan Lingtian could absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in his body, a series of deafening claps of thunder resonated from the clouds above his head. It sounded as though the thunder god was roaring. What happened? For this reason, Duan Lingtian did not continue to absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy. Instead, he raised his head and looked at the horizon. When the spiritual chi of heaven and earth near Duan Lingtian dissipated, Duan Lingtian could clearly see above his head. The clouds in all directions moved. Dark clouds appeared one after another, and their colors became increasingly dark. Purple electric snakes could be vaguely seen moving within, giving people a hair-raising feeling. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the purple electric serpents were actually bolts of purple lightning that were coiling around the dark clouds that were becoming darker and darker in color. This is a heavenly tribulation. The scene before his eyes reminded Duan Lingtian of the heavenly tribulation he had overcome when he was still on the mortal continent. At that time, the heavenly tribulation he underwent was called the 6-9 Heavenly Tribulation. The 6-9 Heavenly Tribulation was the heavenly tribulation that every powerhouse at the peak of the nascent soul stage had to face after breaking through to the void stage. Once one entered the void stage, one would be able to fly. To a certain extent, it was considered heaven-defying. Therefore, the heavens would send the heavenly tribulation as punishment. In the mundane realm, there are 3 types of heavenly tribulation. The first type is the 6-9 heavenly tribulation that one would have to face after breaking through to the void stage. The second type is the 9-9 heavenly tribulation that one would have to face after breaking through to the void stage. As for the third type, it's the celestial ascension tribulation that one would have to face after breaking through to the 9th form of the saint celestial stage. Duan Lingtian thought to himself, "Don't tell me this is the heavenly tribulation that I've attracted after breaking through to the 7th form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form? After all, after breaking through to the 7th form of the saint celestial stage, the heaven-defying form, one's lifespan would be as long as heaven and earth. It's also heaven-defying." Duan Lingtian dismissed this thought as soon as it appeared in his mind. After all, it was impossible. If the 7th form of the saint celestial stage would attract the heavenly tribulation, it's impossible that I don't know about it. Not only did I not hear about it, but I didn't know about it as well. I didn't even know about it through shortcuts. However, if it's not because I've broken through to the 7th form of the saint celestial stage, what is it? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.